There's been an outbreak of pennant fever in Houston. The Astros hold a 2-1 edge over the Braves. Today, it's Game 4 of the National League Division Series from Minute Maid Park, Houston. Feel that wall? Your back's against it. See that open road? It's up ahead. One must win to stay alive. The other to move on.
I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, oh Lord.
Did we say 18? Make that 19 in a row at home for Houston. And now they turn to the 42-year-old 328-game winner. And this is why he came home. For games like this, to lead his hometown team to its first postseason series win. But the Braves have a return trip to Georgia on their mind. With 13 straight division titles, they are tough and proud. The Rocket either wraps it up, or the Braves bring it back home.
I can feel it in the air, oh Lord, oh Lord, oh
The National League Division Series presented by Budweiser. It's Game 4. The Atlanta Braves and the Houston Astros from Minute Maid Park in Houston, where the Braves are trying to stay alive and get it back to Atlanta. The Astros are trying to win for the first time in their history in the postseason. Game 1 of this series in Atlanta. And the Astros had Roger Clemens out there. He wasn't real sharp, but he got it done. Carlos Beltran hit one of 4 homers that were hit by the Astros. They won 9-3. Game 2, a classic, and it was ended by Rafael Furcal's game-ending home run in the 11th inning. Then yesterday here, Game 3, the pivotal Game 3. And Beltran, another home run. And this one put the Astros ahead in the 3rd inning. Then Brandon Backey, the rookie, only 10 big league starts, was sensational. The Astros went ahead 2-1. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. And Joe, here in Houston, and you were a former Astro. There are many here who are saying this is the biggest, most important game in Astros history today. And if that's the case, well, they've got the right man on the mound. 328-game winner Roger Clemens is pitching. Big game pitcher, Game 1 winner, and yet pitching on short rest, only 3 days of rest.
Well, John, a lot of us has come back here to try to help Houston win a division series. I wasn't able to do it. A lot of other people have failed. I think Roger Clemens will succeed today. I think he will be the guy to help Houston win their first division series. And remember this, he's on 3 days rest, but guess what? The first 3 innings of this ball game are going to be pure adrenaline. It will have nothing to do with the 3 days rest. After the first 3 innings, it's when we're going to find out if Roger Clemens will be able to continue on 3 days rest. But the adrenaline will get him through the first 3, and by then they may have a big lead.
All right, now the Atlanta Braves keep waiting for some offense. They have not been able to hit in the clutch at all. And the 3 hitters at the top of the lineup, the 2, 3, 4 spots, Giles, Drew, and Chipper Jones, have been shut down. Those 3 have only 4 hits in 38 at-bats.
Well, Drew, I think, is the real key here because he was the guy that led them most of the season. This is not a big offensive, producing team. These guys get just enough runs to win. They had a big offensive team last year. They didn't win. They've done it a different way this year. But I think J.D. Drew is the key because he does so many things. He's like Beltran. He can get on, he can run the bases, he can make things happen. I think if he does well, Chipper Jones will follow, and Marcus Giles, he is still one of the guys that I look to do a great job today. I think that they're going to score some runs, but by the time they score some, it may be a little too late.
All right, so here we go. They've got the roof closed. The electricity is pulsing through Minute Maid Park. The Astros are trying to make this the day when they finally win in the postseason. Clemens about to take the hill. We'll have the first pitch coming up.
And I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, oh Lord.
ESPN's Major League Baseball Division Series, presented by Budweiser. Budweiser, grab a cold, fresh Budweiser. It's game time.
Inside Minute Maid Park, it was extremely loud in here yesterday. The roof is closed because of a threat of rain, and the big crowd has gathered early in the day here in Houston for a noontime, a lunchtime start, and they're hoping to see something that has never happened before in Astros history. The Astros, born in the 1962 National League expansion, they have never won a postseason series, and the Astros take the field, and Roger Clemens heads out to the mound. The Astros have gone wild ever since August. This Astros team, having taken 2 out of 3 in this series, they are 38-11 since given up for dead by just about everybody else in the National League. Jeff Bagwell, he's been here many times before. Bobby Cox and the Atlanta Braves, perennially on the top of the heap, but they've had a hard time winning these big ball games in the postseason, especially of late. So it'll be Rafael Furcal at shortstop leading off. J.D. Drew moves up into the number 2 spot in right field. It'll be Marcus Giles at second base. Chipper Jones hitting cleanup at third base. He's 0 for 11 in this series. Johnny Estrada had an outstanding first year. He's the catcher. First full year. Andrew Jones in center field had a 3-run homer yesterday. He's one of the few Braves hitting right now. Adam LaRoche, the rookie first baseman. Eli Marrero, the former Cardinal, is in left field. And it will be Russ Ortiz, the veteran right-hander, on the mound, batting ninth, all up against Roger Clemens. Clemens pitched Wednesday, and he struggled coming off a bout with a stomach virus. And now today, working on 3 days of rest. That's one less than normal.
Well, again, the adrenaline will be flowing so high with Roger. The first 3 innings will not matter about the 3 days rest. We'll take a look after the 3 innings and see how he's throwing. And what he will do it with is a fastball. His splitter has become, I think, the most important pitch to him as he's aged a little bit. When he was young, he'd just throw the ball by you with a good slider, curveball. Now he uses the splitter to set up his fastball, and everything else works from there. And I think the one thing that people don't really respect as much they should about Roger Clemens, he has good control. And let's take a look at the defense that will be behind Roger today. And this is a pretty good defense. Not a lot of range around this defense. But Vizcaíno, as shortstop, has done a great job of filling in for Adam Everett when he went out. Vizcaíno is, in my opinion, a very good, smart player. He knows how to play in the postseason.
And here we go. Game 4. Rafael Furcal and the first pitch strike from Roger Clemens.
The one problem Roger has sometimes at the beginning of the ball game, like I said, he's so highly strung that a lot of times his fastball will be up in the strike zone. That was perfect.
And he tries to bunt and misses. Strike 2. Furcal, the man at the top, trying to be the igniter for this ball club, and he has hit .385. He's been on base a lot, 7 different times, but he's only scored 2 runs so far. Popped up. This is Ausmus, the catcher. 1 away. Also with us here is Gary Miller. Let's go down to Gary.
John and Joe, Roger Clemens has done almost everything in baseball, but this is only the 4th time in 10 years he's pitched on 3 days rest. The only time he's ever won a postseason game on 3 days rest was the 1986 ALCS. Phil Garner said, we don't want to go back to Atlanta. He's our best shot. He said, we're going to lather up this horse and ride him as far as we can, and then we'll go get another pony.
Well, I guess that's some Texas slang, I guess.
Go get another pony.
Well, we're going to lather him up and ride him and then go get another pony.
Sounds to me like they're intending to cowboy up.
Yeah.
Well, and when we are deep in the heart of Texas, after all, here's J.D. Drew. The high, hard one from Roger. J.D. Drew, so far in this postseason, 2 hits in 12 at-bats.
Well, J.D. Drew's swing doesn't even look the same. I mean, that's a very slow... If we don't have our bat speed monitor anymore, but that was not a lot of bat speed.
And down and away by the Rocket. It is 2 balls and a strike. J.D. Drew had a breakout season with Atlanta. Hit .305, 31 homers, 93 batted in. He walked 118 times. So if he wasn't hitting homers or driving people in, he was on base to be driven in. He's only been on base 4 times in this series. Broken back. Going down the right field line. That ball is a foul ball. Bagwell and Kent went out. And Berkman came in, but nobody could get to it. The umpiring alignment for today's game, it'll be Field and Culbreth back of the plate. Joe Brinkman at first base. Tony Randazzo at second. Tim McClelland third base. Phil Cousy along the left field line. Wally Bell along the right field line.
And we got an example there of what I was talking about. Roger Clemens' control is underrated. I mean, he went inside for a strike, then he went away for a ball, then he went right back inside on the hands, and he broke J.D. Drew's bat. What that does is that opens up both halves of the plate for him. J.D. can't just look inside, and he can't look outside.
We haven't seen Roger throw a splitter yet. Maybe this will be it. 2-2. Fastball. Going back in center field. Carlos Beltran still going back onto the hill. He makes the catch.
Well, maybe this will be the Astros' day, because one more step and there's no way he catches that ball, because he would have started to run up that hill, and that hill throws everything off for you. And he could not know that he was near the hill because he was chasing the ball.
I think he was on the hill.
Let's take a look. I think he's right at the bottom of the hill, because he starts to run up right there. See, he's right one more step and he would have been in real trouble. See, he even loses his balance right there a little bit. But a great play by Beltran.
Now Marcus Giles, and a slider from Clemens misses. 1 ball and no strikes.
Because when you're running up that hill, you lose, your head starts to bounce and you basically lose the ball.
Going into left center. Plenty of room this time as Beltran. So Atlanta goes down in order. Not too many pitches, only 10 pitches for the Rocket. The Astros coming up. Biggio, Beltran, Bagwell. So the Braves have gone down in order in their first inning. Now the Astros are coming up against the Atlanta right-hander Russ Ortiz. Manager Phil Garner, 48-26 since he took over the ball club soon after the All-Star break. But more recently, 38-11, including the postseason. He's got Craig Biggio hitting leadoff in left field. Carlos Beltran, who has been a revelation maybe to the rest of the country. They already knew about him here in Houston and in Kansas City. Jeff Bagwell at first base, and he'd been here a long time, tried to move on for the first time. Lance Berkman, the young slugger, the switch hitter in right. Jeff Kent at second base, another veteran. He has not hit one yet in this series. Morgan Ensberg at third base. He's done well. Had a big day yesterday. Jose Vizcaino is at shortstop, batting seventh. Veteran switch hitter Brad Ausmus, the catcher, hitting eighth, and Roger Clemens on the mound, batting ninth. And pitching, Russ Ortiz. And Russ not going until the fourth game, Joe, but he's been here before.
Well, Russ's problem usually is his control. He will throw a lot of pitches, and he's up a lot in the strike zone early in the ball game. So we'll have to take a look at him. Throwing strikes is the key for Ortiz. If he doesn't walk a lot of hitters, he's very difficult to hit. A lot of movement on all of his pitches.
That ball is driven toward the short porch in left field, off the scoreboard. Here comes the throw by Marrero. A double for Biggio.
Well, this ballpark is a right-handed hitter's heaven. I mean, this is a line drive. This is not a fly ball. And Biggio's not the kind of guy to just line a ball off the wall. But it's a short porch in left field. And Marrero plays this great. One hop, fires to second. And Biggio barely beats the throw with a nice headlong slide. And you see Ortiz hoping that they get him. Nice play there by Marrero. Perfect throw.
But you're talking about a heaven for a right-handed hitter?
Yeah.
That probably would have been caught at Turner Field.
That's my point. That was a line drive. It wasn't a fly ball.
Now, Beltran, that's an upset. Shows bunt.
Yeah.
You think he was bluffing?
Yeah, I don't think Garner wants him to give himself up in this situation. I mean, he's been the guy for them in this series, and he can pull the ball. All he's got to do is pull the ball to the right side. He will accomplish the same thing as bunting would do, but he can also give himself a chance to drive the runner in. But not if he fouls it off to the left.
Okay, so maybe he should go back to bunting if that's the best he can do. 1 ball, 1 strike to count. There's Phil Garner. Well, Beltran leads the team. He scored 5 runs. He leads with 5 hits. He's had 2 stolen bases and is tied for the club lead and with 4 RBIs. He's put them ahead a couple of different times with home runs, including yesterday. Beltran has either scored or driven in nearly half of the Astros runs in this series. He's scored 5 and driven in 4. He's back to the bunt, and he takes a called strike 2. There is Beltran with the bubble gum. There's Biggio over at second base. Bagwell is on deck.
I don't quite understand that either, John. Now he's got 2 strikes on him. But maybe he's just setting him up.
And that one runs off the inside with a changeup. And that changeup had some movement coming back toward the plate. 2-2 the count. Russ Ortiz. He's a veteran. He's been in the postseason a few times before. He was in the World Series with the Giants 2 years ago. And in fact, he left the mound in game 6 in the 7th inning with a shutout going when the Giants might have won a World Series against the Angels. That one pulled to the right side, coming hard and making the catch is Drew, and that does not move Biggio over.
And let's take a look at the defense for the Braves behind Russ Ortiz. I think the key, we know Andrew Jones, a great center fielder. The key is that Chipper Jones has moved back to third base, and obviously he's a very good third baseman, but the one thing that it has done is helped his hamstring. He kept pulling his hamstrings running in the outfield and running the bases. I think this has helped him to stay healthy, and right now he's doing the job defensively, but he's not swinging the bat well. I think the biggest thing that changed around for the Astros came when they put Jeff Bagwell back at third. I know he wasn't hitting well and doing a lot of things, but guess what? He knows how to hit in that slot. Beltran was hitting third. It wasn't working out. They finally put Bagwell back into the third slot, and he knows what the third slot's all about. He walks a lot. He knows how to utilize his skills at that position.
Bagwell, who hit his first postseason home run earlier in this series. Runner at second. His old running mate, Craig Biggio. That breaking ball from Ortiz bounced foul off to the left. And it's a count of 1-1. He hit his home run in game 2. And he hit it the other way, Joe.
Well, for a long time, that was the only run off of Mike Hampton. Hampton was pitching well. He trailed 1-0 for a long time. Then he gave up another home run to Chavez, but Hampton pitched great that day.
That game ended up going 11 innings. A lot of guys pitched well in that game. 1 ball, 1 strike. And the curveball, and it's 1-2.
I think what happened when Bagwell was put back in the third slot, he wasn't happy when they moved him out to 5th in the first place. But I think what that did is it issued a great challenge for Bagwell from Garner, and he responded by doing a great job down the stretch. This team got on fire once he started back to hitting third, and they moved Beltran back to second.
1-2. Fastball away, and that's fouled off the right field line. When Ortiz throws that fastball, it generally will have a little cut to it, which he says he doesn't actually intend. It just seems to have a little natural cut to it that will usually run away from a right-handed hitter.
Well, if you're a pitcher, you really want movement, so you should be happy that you do get some movement.
1-2 the count. Biggio at second. There's a pickoff throw. Giles covering, but Biggio back in time.
And the reason for that is Biggio was trying to sneak off second base even when Beltran was hitting. He was trying to sneak off and try to steal third. And they do not want him to steal third now with 1 out.
Johnny Estrada, the catcher, drops aside for Ortiz. Biggio leads away from second. Checks on Giles. He's moving in close to the bag. That one is rolled into the hole at short. For Carl, checks Biggio and throws out Bagwell. 2 men down.
How about guns out Bagwell?
That's
I mean, when he catches the ball, he straightens up and he throws it on a low line across the diamond. I mean, he has one of the best arms you'll ever see on a shortstop. Now he catches this ball deep in the hole. Now watch, a lot of guys have to throw it high to get it across there. Look at that. I mean, that just stays right there. That's a strong arm.
90 miles an hour?
I'd say about 95. He's got to have.
95.
Yeah, if he was throwing from the mound, I guarantee he could blow a lot of guys
Well, if
away.
Roger Clemens is the rocket, he must be the pocket rocket. Here is Lance Berkman now trying to get Biggio home. Biggio led off this inning with a double, and he's still at second base. Both Beltran and Bagwell went down. Berkman hitting .385 for the series with a home run, and you see what he did in the regular season: .316, 30 homers, and 106 runs batted in. One of 3 Astros who drove in over 100 runs for the year, including Beltran. Now, 1 ball, 1 strike to Berkman. Jeff Kent, the right-handed hitter, is on deck. Now, Russ Ortiz finished the year in a slump. He had a great July, National League Player of the Month, but in his last 12 starts after July, he was only 3-3 with a 6.11 ERA. And he gave up a lot of home runs. In fact, Joe, on Sunday Night Baseball in August, we saw Barry Bonds hit a couple of tape measure shots against Ortiz. Along the left field line, slicing toward the corner and back in amongst the spectators, out of play. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Berkman.
And Berkman is just as dangerous in this ballpark hitting the ball to left field as he would be pulling the ball. I mean, again, this is a small ballpark. Anything hit in the air always has a chance to either go out of the ballpark or hit off the wall. And especially that left field wall, very shallow. It's 315, and that's very close, especially when the ball carries well here.
Russ Ortiz has made 5 other division series starts, and he's 3-1 in those starts. And that's up and in with a changeup. Now, 2 balls, 2 strikes. In fact, he won the deciding game against Atlanta in Atlanta 2 years ago, his last year with the Giants. Ortiz used to pitching with a lot of men on base, as he's been throughout this inning after Biggio's leadoff double. A lot of guys get on because he walks so many. That one is ripped right to Giles, and the inning is over. So Biggio, the leadoff double, and then nothing. No score. Chipper Jones coming up.
In the studio, Roger Clemens starting this game, as we know, on short rest. What's the approach if you're the opponent? Does Atlanta approach this differently?
Well, I think the Atlanta Braves have to approach this like the New York Yankees approached Johan Santana of the Minnesota Twins yesterday. They have to work the count, get deep in the count, and make Roger Clemens throw a lot of pitches so they can get to that middle relief in the bullpen.
All right, John and Joe, back out to you guys.
First ball swinging. Chipper Jones with a base hit to right field against Roger, and that is Chipper's first hit of this series after having gone 0 for 11.
I agree in one sense with Steve Phillips, but one thing about Roger Clemens this first inning, he was throwing nothing but strikes, and you do not want to get behind in the count 0-2 or whatever because he has such a great splitter. So Chipper Jones takes that first sinker there and hits it in the right field for a base hit.
You know, that's an interesting point that you bring up, Joe. Here he is. He's 42 years old. He's pitching on short rest, which he has not often done in his career, but especially not lately. And he was not at his best, having come off the stomach virus in his start the other day, Wednesday. He struggled all the way through. He ended up walking 6. But, you know, usually you see Roger going for the strikeout.
Right.
But he was going after them, making them hit the ball in that first inning.
He was throwing strikes. He's not overpowering or trying not to be overpowering. He's just throwing quality strikes. And I think that's the difference right now, you know, in Roger. He realizes that he doesn't have his great stuff, but he knows that he's a good pitcher. He knows what he can do. He knows how to pitch.
Johnny Estrada, the hitter. I mean, when you strike out a lot of hitters, and hardly anybody struck out more than Roger Clemens over the years, it takes a lot of pitchers to get a lot of strikeouts.
Definitely.
He can't afford that many pitches today. He threw 117 in a laborious 7-inning performance on Wednesday. Bobby Cox ruined the fact before the game today. He said, you know, looking back at that game, I mean, we were a base hit away from a run here, 2 runs there, every inning it seemed like. But they couldn't get that 1 base hit against the Rockets, and that was why he won that game, as he throws a strike here to Johnny Estrada, 1-1.
Well, that's the mark of a great pitcher. I mean, he knows how to pitch when he's in trouble. He's always able to minimize the damage that you can do to him, even if you get the bases loaded, no one out. He always finds a way to stay in the ball game.
Johnny Estrada hit a home run here yesterday. Back to the bag at first. Chipper Jones. Estrada was a revelation this year. They knew he was a fine catcher. He hit .314 in the regular season. And there's the home run. He hit it out to left center field. And you've got to get it above the yellow line out there. It's no longer a cheap home run to left center like it used to be. Just off the outside from the Rocket.
I think the Rocket is concerned with Chipper Jones at first base because he feels like, well, the Braves are going to try to do something. They have to do something to make things happen early for them today. The Braves, everything they've done in this series has been later. They've got to try to get ahead in one of these ball games, and I think he figures Chipper Jones may run or they may hit and run.
Check swing. It's too high. An appeal made to Tim McClellan, the third base umpire. No swing, he says. 3-1 the count. First time that Clemens has gone into a deep count against any hitter. Johnny Estrada was outstanding in the clutch for Atlanta this year. Estrada hit .338 in his at-bats with runners in scoring position. Chipper Jones right now at first. He's running. Estrada up the middle, base hit. And that will get Chipper over to third.
Well, he worked himself into a perfect hit and run count. And again, the Braves have to do something. They can't just sit and wait because they do not have that type of offense going for them right now. But a good job by Estrada. He goes right back through the middle. You can see that Vizcaino was covering. So the Braves actually get a break there. A lot of times when the guy's going, the shortstop covering, you get a line drive back through the middle, turned into a double play. So if you're the Braves, you say, well, that's a good sign for me. Plus, it was a good sign in the first inning when they hit a couple of balls hard off Ortiz right at the infielder and the outfielder.
So now here is Andrew Jones. Yeah, Houston got a line drive by Beltran to the right fielder, and then Berkman hit a liner right at the second baseman to end the inning. Andrew Jones. Andrew had a single, a double, and a homer yesterday. And he hit his big home run late in the game. As you're talking about, Joe, Braves were down 8-2 when he finally hit the home run. But he has had 6 hits and 12 at-bats in this series.
Well, again, they've had some late game offense, but it's always trying to play catch-up.
That's base hit into left center, out of the reach of Vizcaino. Chipper Jones scores. Estrada digging for third, and the throw comes into the cutoff man, Vizcaino. So Andrew Jones delivers again. A ball that was almost a double play ball. Instead, an RBI single, 1-0 Atlanta.
This is a game of inches, and that's what makes this game so great. The Astros hit a couple of line drives at fielders. This ball could have been a double play, but it was hit a foot to the center field side of, to the left of the shortstop, and he could not make the play. But again, Rogers not overpowering today. I can see that now, but he's still locating pretty well. That ball was down enough to get the ground ball that he wanted, but the Braves found the hole.
So the Braves get one of those hits that they had such a hard time getting Wednesday against Rogers. He kicks toward third and bluffs toward first. You're just like one of those fans in the stand when that happens. Starts saying, "Oh, balk! Yeah. Come on!"
Actually, I had an interesting conversation with Sandy Alderson. He's the head of the Umpires Association. I wanted to know why it's not a balk.
That's a called strike at the knees.
Because the rule book says you can't do anything to deceive the runner. What is he trying to do if he's not trying to deceive the runner?
Well, he's undecided.
Oh, okay.
He thinks about picking the guy for third, then he changes his mind.
Oh, but you can't with your foot on the rubber. I don't understand how you can fake to third and then be able to throw to first with your foot on the rubber.
Adam LaRoche, and he takes a called strike. It's 0-2. Well, I agree with you on that one. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Braves, who stranded 10 runners in the first 5 innings against Clemens Wednesday, the first time they get a chance to score today, they score. And it's been a recurring theme for them in this series, not getting the big base hit. What do you think, Joe? Balk?
Yeah, what he's doing there is he's keeping Andrew Jones from stealing second base. That's what he's doing, because, if you're going to steal second base, you're going to go in his first movement, leg lift to the plate, and that's what he does there to keep him from getting the jump at first base.
That's a double play ball. Vizcaino to second one. Kent over to first. A double play, but That gets a run home. Estrada comes in to score. LaRoche does not get credit for the RBI, but the Braves are happy to have that second run.
One of my favorite all-time teammates had a theory in that situation, and Reggie Smith. And he always said, hit the ball on the ground, get the runner home from third base. His point was, if you pop up and then the next guy hits that ground ball, double play, you don't get the runner home from third. So it's always the guy hitting with no one out that is the key in that situation. Put the ball in play without popping it up.
Well, I remember having that discussion with Reggie as well.
Yeah.
And he said that he thought a guy should get credit for an RBI.
Well, and
his job is get that guy home one way or the other.
And I almost agree with that, because you get an RBI if you take one in the back with the bases loaded.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you did what you were supposed to do. You get the runner home.
Here's Eli Marrero, the former Cardinal. He was part of the J.D. Drew trade. 2-0 the count to Marrero. Marrero was injured and didn't play much the first half of the year. Ended up hitting .320 for Atlanta in 250 at-bats with 10 home runs. Into the hole at short. This is a long throw for Vizcaino. He bounces it. Bagwell's got it, but too late. Marrero beats it out.
And we took it for granted when we saw Furcal go deep in the hole and throw the runner out. That's the toughest play right there for a shortstop. When you have to go deep in the hole and throw out a runner that runs well to first base. I mean, this is the exact same play that we saw from Furcal. He went deep in the hole, and actually this one's a little easier, but I mean, the strength of arm that it takes to get the ball there on the fly from deep shortstop is just tremendous, and he wasn't able to get it there.
Nice play by Bagwell.
Who was a Gold Glover at one time? Bagwell was, before the arm injury.
Yeah. He can't throw well now, but with that bad shoulder, but he's still can pick it, as we just saw right there. That was not one of those little short hops into the glove. Well, the Braves started the inning with 3 consecutive singles, and all through this inning, Joe, they've been hitting the ball to the ground. Andrew Jones knocked in the first run of the inning with a ground ball. It was very nearly a double play ball and just got out of the reach of Vizcaino. LaRoche then did hit a double play ball. Now Marrero beats out an infield hit as the slider misses outside to Ortiz. 2-1. Russ Ortiz is a pitcher, but he's not a bad hitter, and he has some power. Ortiz did not display either the ability to hit or to hit home runs, however, this year. Not so far, anyway.
A little tardy on that fastball.
Now, last year, that ball would have been in the bleachers.
High fastball, and he cannot catch up with it. The fans here are reacting very well to Rogers' presence on the mound.
And that will be back out of play.
And I think you see the difference in Roger Clemens on 3 days rest and 4 days rest. I mean, when he would get 2 strikes on guys in his normal rest, he would turn the fastball loose high or the splitter. He is not doing that. He has not struck out a batter. And that tells you something right there about his velocity and the movement on his pitches so far today. I think he has enough movement, but he doesn't have the same velocity that he likes to have.
Well, there is his first strikeout. 2 runs for Atlanta in this big ball game. Now the Astros will have to play catch-up. Kent coming up. National League Division Series, the Braves and Astros game 4. Houston leading 2-1 in the series with a chance to wrap it up today, but Atlanta has jumped ahead. Bobby Cox just wants another day, another shot at the Astros tomorrow. He also needs some innings from Russ Ortiz today. Yesterday, when his starter John Thompson had to leave the game after only 4 pitches, the Atlanta bullpen had to throw 7 2/3 innings. High curveball, that was a hanger. Kent pops it up, and the catcher did not know where it was at first. Estrada belatedly coming over, and he might have had a shot at that ball, just barely back into the dugout, had he initially known where the ball was.
John, this is a different circumstance than the dome in Minnesota the other day. I mean, this one is green. You should be able to find the ball here. Remember in Minnesota, It was grayish color like the baseball. Well, here it should be much easier to find the ball.
Well, don't tell me, tell Johnny Estrada. Come on, Johnny. 0-1 the count. That ball will rip to left field. And in there, base hit. Marrero, gloves on the hop. Kent with a big turn at first, and he'll hold there. Kent, who has not had much success in this series. That's his third hit in 13 at-bats.
Interesting defense they had set up there. I mean, this ball is hit almost a straightaway left field. They're playing him in the left center field. I thought they were going to catch this ball. Look where this ball lands. I mean, that ball is pretty much straightaway left field. They were playing him more toward left center, and that ball fell in.
Jeff Kent, who had an important 2-out RBI yesterday. The Astros have been getting a lot of 2-out RBIs, especially yesterday. Before yesterday, most of their runs were a direct result of home runs. Here is Morgan Ensberg, but Kent's signature moment yesterday was that belly flop slide at home plate. Looked like he was going to be out as Ortiz with a fastball to the knees for a strike to Ensberg.
Well, Ensberg also had the big hit yesterday too. One of those two-out doubles with the bases loaded.
He ended up driving in 3 of their runs yesterday,
and that actually finished the game as far as Atlanta was concerned. They were not going to be able to score 8 runs.
1 strike to count to Ensberg, and Kent back to the bag at first. But getting back to this thing about the Atlanta bullpen, Bobby Cox said before the game today, he said, hey, if Russ Ortiz gets knocked out in the 3rd inning, we're pretty well cooked. But we don't have a long man today. He used the long man yesterday. The bullpen 7 2/3 innings yesterday, and they gave up 8 runs and 10 hits and 8 walks out of the bullpen yesterday. That is a base hit to right field. Chased a high fastball and poked it through the right side. Kent over to second. And the Astros with consecutive hits here against Ortiz to start the second with Vizcaíno coming up.
And that was good hitting there by Ensberg. The pitch was up, but if he tries to pull it, he's going to hit a ground ball to shortstop. So what does he do? He goes the other way. Watch, you can see him take his aim that way. He was trying to hit the ball to right field. It wasn't late. He wasn't late on the pitch. He was trying to shoot that ball in the hole to right field, and he did a great job.
Ensberg, who hit 25 homers last year, but then lost his regular job this year after an injury. And by the tail end of the season, Mike Lamb was doing a great job, and he was playing every day. Here's Vizcaíno, and he fouls one back. It is 0-1. Vizcaíno had 0-1 the count. One strike to Vizcaíno, hitless in the series, 0 for 11.
Well, Chipper Jones is not sure that they're not bunting here.
And that will go back out of play off to the left.
Well, I think he'll be sure now since there's 2 strikes. But he was turned sideways and that's a unique fielding position, one that I personally do not like, because if you're turned sideways, you can only come forward or backwards. You can't go left or right from that position. But he was trying to keep his eye on the runner at second and be in position to field the bunt if that bunt came.
Kent at second, Ensberg at first, nobody out. Ortiz again. That is not hit that hard to get 1, and Furcal will be content with that as he jumps out of harm's way with Ensberg coming in hard. Vizcaíno safe at first, Kent over to third.
Well, the ball was not hit sharply toward second base, and they really, truthfully, you have to make sure 1, and that's what they did here. Giles gives him a good feed, but there's not a lot that you can do there. You see Ensberg is on top of him before he can turn toward first base. And that's the one thing I think people don't understand. You don't have to hit the fielder to break up a double play. You just have to make him leave his feet, and most of the time he's not going to be able to complete the double play.
So now Brad Ausmus, the veteran catcher, runners at first and third, 1 out. And a curveball misses. 1 ball and no strikes.
The one thing about Ortiz, I think that when he is on and he can keep the ball down, especially with his fastball, he will get the ground ball. And I think this is a situation where if you're Estrada and you're Ortiz, you say, I've got to get the ground ball here. So make sure you just concentrate on throwing the sinker. I wouldn't care as much about the curveball, the changeup, or the slider. I would just try to throw sinkers and make sure that I get the ground ball.
Well, that one sank all the way into the dirt.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was a fastball. Looked like he held on to it a little too long, like he was trying to throw another cutter or maybe a sinker. I mean, a slide, a sinker, or a slider, or a fastball.
And the Astros have not fared much better than the Braves in their at-bats with runners in scoring position. And today, 0 for 4 already. Kent at third. Vizcaino at first. The middle infield double play deck. And that's down and away. 3-0. The pitcher, Clemens, is up next.
And I know he's aware of that, but you have the lead. And the one thing you have to do is make them earn it. Do not help them out. And you're helping them out by putting runners on base and moving the tying run into scoring position.
Clemens did not do a bad job with the bat this year for an old guy. 3-0. That's in at the knees for a strike. 3-1.
And see, this is why I say you should not really run the count to 3-1. You should have to make it happen before that, because he gives Garner a chance now. If he wants to send the runner, that will keep them out of the double play.
3-1 the count. Well, he's got to run. I'm sending him. Ortiz on top. Holden. He's not running. And it's too low. Ball 4. And now the bases are loaded with 1 out for Roger Clemens. Clemens had 12 hits this year, and he had 7 runs batted in. And he gets a standing ovation from the crowd here in his hometown as he heads to the plate.
Well, that's what 18 wins will do for you. Coming back and helping get them into a division playoff.
Can the Rocket, after a brilliant career in the American League, help the Astros do something that they have never done before? Right now, they needed to do it with his bat, and that's ball 1. Now, Ortiz, throughout his career, has been prone to spells where he cannot get the ball in the strike zone. And it has confounded his managers in the past. Dusty Baker managed him for many years in San Francisco. Bobby Cox here in Atlanta. Bases loaded, 1 out. Tagging at third is Kent. This is medium center. Andrew Jones is going to keep the runner at second as Kent comes in to score with another head-first slide. It's 2-1. Roger Clemens drives in the first run of the game for Houston.
And an excellent job by Roger just to put the ball in play in the air. I mean, if he hits a ground ball, it's going to be a double play. But he gets a high fastball and he hits it in the air.
Now Craig Biggio, the leadoff man. Biggio hit 24 home runs this year. And the crowd's still on its feet here. And the curveball misses. Biggio hit a double off that left field wall his first time to lead off the first inning. 2-1 Atlanta. Vizcaino at second, Ausmus at first. Again, the breaking ball misses. And now it is 2-0.
What bothers me about, I'm watching Ortiz. He does not follow Leo Mazzoni's theory on pitching right here. Leo Mazzoni's theory on pitching is you work off the fastball. You use the fastball to set up your other pitches. He is not doing that once he's gotten in trouble.
Now the fastball, and Biggio pops it up. Foul ground. Now look out. The ball may have hit the roof. And it is Ortiz who makes the catch.
But it's a foul ball if it hits foul.
When it hits in foul ground, it is a dead ball.
Yeah, it's foul ball.
So immediately called foul by Tim McClelland. And he's the third base umpire. And because it hit on the foul side, at that moment it became a dead ball.
And this is the opposite of the Minnesota Dome. There, if the ball hits and you catch it, he's out. But right here, the ball hits foul, and it comes back, and Ortiz makes a nice catch, but it does not count. So you can tell the ball must have hit foul, although we don't have a view of it yet, because both the shortstop and the third baseman were going into foul territory to make the catch. That tells you the ball was foul. And Ortiz said all that for nothing. But it's a great job, and it's a heads-up play by Ortiz.
If it hits the roof in fair ground and lands fair, it's in play. Yesterday, J.D. Drew hit one fair, and nobody could catch it. It landed behind the pitcher's mound, and he got a base hit. But if it hits the roof in foul ground, it's immediately a dead ball. It's just a foul ball.
And that's what's funny about the, difference between the ground rules here and the ground rules in Minnesota. And Leo is saying, why? He caught it. Let's make that put it in play. And I think in the old Astrodome, if the ball hit the roof and you caught it, if it caught it in fair territory, it was a fair ball.
Well, yesterday the Braves thought it was a pretty good ground rule when Drew got the single. They're not so sure today. So Biggio with a second chance. The Minute Maid Park roof playing a hand. 2-1. Now 3-1.
See, the problem with his approach, I know Biggio hit a fastball off the wall for a double the first time up. So you want to throw him a slider. He threw him a slider first pitch. Now when you miss with that, you've got to spot the fastball better. Because if you pitch from behind, you're going to have to get him the fastball anyway. So throw it when he doesn't know for sure that it's coming. He knows what's coming now.
3-1. That ball deep to left, and that ball is gone. High up into the Crawford boxes. A 3-run homer for Biggio, and the Astros have a 4-2 lead. Ortiz thought he had him out. He had the ball in his glove. And look what happened.
Well, it's a poor job of pitch selection. And we can say whatever we want, wherever the pitch was and all that. But it was a poor job before you got to the 3-1 count. He did the same thing with Brad Osmus. He is pitching opposite of the teachings of Leo Mazzoni.
Well,
and the thing that has made, the Braves pitcher successful.
And Ortiz gave up a lot of home runs the second half of the year.
Well, and the reason, if you fall behind, John, and you throw 2 sliders away, what are you going to throw next? They know you have to come with the fastball. He got the 3-1. They know what's coming, and they sit on the fastball. You throw the fastball early in the count, they're not 100% sure.
1-1 the count to Beltran. Ripped down the right field line. That ball is fair up against the wall. Beltran to second, and he'll stop there. Drew hurries it back in.
Well, Beltran has been swinging the bat well this entire series. He's got such good hand action on the ball inside, which is unusual. A lot of times you see guys pull their bottom hand through to keep the ball fair. He rolls his top hand, but he's still able to keep the ball fair. I think that's how he gets his bat speed, whereas most hitters will pull their bottom hand through on the ball inside.
Jeff Bagwell along the left field line, just a little looping liner in there, base hit. And that will get Beltran home. So Biggio and Bagwell speaking with the RBI bat in the inning, something we had never seen in the past. With these Astros in the postseason, Biggio getting his first postseason homer, and only the second time he'd ever driven in a run.
Well, Estrada was set up inside. He threw it inside. He jams him, but he doesn't get the result that he's looking for.
And the ground rule at Minute Maid Park, a key for the Astros here. Biggio cheering on Bagwell. two longtime partners, two charter members of the Killer Bees here in Houston, as Mazzoni out to talk with Ortiz. And Atlanta's bullpen is getting busy. But Bagwell and Biggio, I mean, the thing that had been remarkable in the Astros' previous trip to the postseason was that neither one of them able to hit at all, and usually shut down by Atlanta. This, by the way, is the first time in 4 postseason series against Atlanta that Biggio's ever driven in a run. Forget about a home run. First time he's ever even driven in a run against the Braves in a postseason series.
John, well, this inning started off poorly for him because they did not pitch, and the pitch selection was not of the right circumstances when you have a 2-run lead.
Lance Berkman, the 9th hitter of the inning. And Bagwell back to the bag at first. 4 runs are in. In the bullpen, Kevin Grabowski has started to warm up. And that was Bobby Cox's worst fear about this game, was that Russ Ortiz might get knocked out early. Berkman lined out to the second baseman his first time. And it's off the outside. 1 ball and no. What about psychologically, Joe? Russ Ortiz had already breathed a sigh of relief. He was clutching that foul ball in his glove and ready to head to the dugout, thinking, all right, I got out of it.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna let that be the reason for what happened. Because what would have happened if it's just a normal foul ball? You know what I mean? I understand your point that psychologically he thought he was out of the inning. And that's true, but guess what? What happens if you get a ground ball and the guy makes an error behind you? You know what I mean? You have to be able to finish off the inning. Doesn't matter. But again, I just think they approached this inning improperly since they had a 2-run lead. Because Russ Ortiz has good stuff.
That's a strike knee high on the outside to Berkman. 2-1.
Well, the Astros have won 19 straight games here, so they feel comfortable here. And I know in those 19 games they've been behind a few times. They're still able to come back, and you have to feel comfortable in a place where you won 19 games in a row.
5 runs have scored in this inning. Now it is 3-1 to Berkman. Jeff Kent, who started this inning with a single, is on deck. This 5-run rally by the Astros is the biggest inning ever put together by any Astros team in postseason play.
Well, you have to remember they've never won anything before either. That's one of the reasons. But they did all this with 2 outs, which makes it even more important.
3-1. That is on the outside corner. It's 3-2. Berkman thought he had a walk.
Well, I think Bergman is sitting there. He's looking for a fastball middle in so he can hit that short porch in right field. And he makes a fastball that tails away. I mean, look at that. He's got good stuff. That's why I said that I just think they approached this inning incorrectly with a 2-run lead.
Russ Ortiz has thrown 28 pitches in this inning. Bagwell ready to run from first. LaRoche playing behind him. Bagwell goes, and that's a foul back to the screen. And we continue on.
It would be very different, you know, from my perspective if he didn't have good stuff. But he looks like he's got good stuff. He's got a good fastball. He doesn't have as good a control with his slider and curve as you'd like. But with a 2-run lead, you don't need that until you get in trouble. And I just think he pitched backwards to start this inning.
There goes Bagwell. Changeup for the strikeout. So Atlanta with a 2-run second inning to go ahead, but countered by Houston. Game 4 of the National League Division Series presented by Budweiser. The Astros 5, the Braves 2 as we head to the 3rd inning. A nightmare for Russ Ortiz. And there's going to be a lot of hot debate going on about this ground rule here in Houston, because that inning, at least the Braves feel, should have been over. Chipper Jones, number 1, was going to catch that pop up the way he went for it, but then it hit the roof, and then Russ Ortiz did catch it. When they said, well, sorry, but that doesn't count. And the inning would have been over, and instead, the inning kept on. And as you mentioned, Joe, I mean, okay, the inning goes on. You got to make pitches. You got to be smart. You got to get it done. But The inning would have been over,
right,
except we're indoors. And then also the ground rule that's peculiar to this ballpark. And that kept it going, and 4 runs scored after Atlanta thought they'd gotten the 3rd out.
See, I think that the ground rule should read, you know, similar to the one in Minnesota. If the ball hits in foul territory and it falls back fair and you catch it, he's out. If it hits in foul territory and you don't catch it, it's a foul ball, because the ball was going to be caught easily by Chipper Jones, and you're penalizing the pitcher in that respect. Well, this park penalizes them anyway, so.
For Carl rips one into right center field. That's a base hit. Berkman cuts it off, and he'll hold for Carl to a single. Nice throw into second base.
Not only was that a nice throw, that's a smart decision by Furcal, but that's an excellent play there by Lance Berkman in right field, because he cut the ball off, got it back in quickly, but you do not run into an out when you're down 3 runs, as the Braves are here in this situation. Look at that cutoff. He wheels and throws a strike. Look at this perfect throw to second base. You're out if you're Furcal and you try to make it.
Now J.D. Drew, I mean, he's on base and he got the big hitters coming up, so. And there's strike 1.
But I think you also realize, if you're the Braves, okay, we're down 5-2, but this is not the Rocket Clemens we saw in June or July. He is on 3 days rest. He's not throwing as well. He's just as smart, but he's not throwing it well as well. So we have to be smart, and we have to play the game.
Andrew Jones perhaps reflecting the sentiment of his teammates, and especially a lot of Atlanta fans. After the Braves got 2 in the 5th, only to see the Astros come back with 5 of their own. And the Braves, who have to win this game to stay alive, are now trailing 5-2.
And the tough thing about the Braves is that they've had to play from behind this entire series. They finally got ahead and couldn't last for 1 inning where they could put the pressure on the Astros.
Chipper Jones in the hole with Giles on deck. The Braves adjusted their batting order today. It had been Giles 2, Drew 3, and Chipper Jones 4th. Today, Drew up to the number 2 spot, Giles in the number 3, and Chipper hitting 4th. None of the 3 have done well in this series.
Well, the reason they put Drew behind Furcal is just this reason here. If it's a close game, Roger thinks he's going to run, you're going to get more fastballs to hit.
There he goes. And Drew lifts that fastball foul and back into the second deck.
But when you get the fastball, you have to do something with it. And that's the reason you hit behind a guy that steals bases. You're going to get hard stuff, and you know that. So you have to sit there and look for it and do something with it when you get it.
Oh, and 2 the count to J.D. Drew. Drew with only 2 hits and 13 at-bats in the series, and Furcal just did make it back to the bag.
You know, we've taken a lot of things for granted over the years, but watch where this throw is from Roger. Watch where it is. Perfect throw right there, leading the tag right to the bag. I mean, we take things for granted that it's easier to throw to first base. Well, it really isn't, to throw it properly and to throw it to the right spot. But that was a perfect pickoff throw from Roger Clemens, and it just, all Bagwell had to do was catch the ball and make the tag. It led him right to where he wanted to go with the tag.
And back again, this time Furcal back in standing. 0-2 the count to J.D. Drew. Roger Clemens, and they've got a nice lead, do the Astros. But we don't know how long Roger's going to be able to stay in this ball game. His manager, Phil Garner, said, hey, realistically, if he gave us 5 innings and we were ahead, I'd be happy with that. I'd prefer 6, but I don't think Garner is counting on more than 5 or 6 from Clemens in this game.
Well, you know, I've never liked that as a theory, you know, personally. You send the guy out there to pitch. I'm not sending him out there, in my opinion, to give me 90 pitches, 100 pitches, or 4 innings, 5 innings. This is Roger Clemens.
Well, he didn't say it was a limit. He was going to pull him after 5.
Yeah, but
he just said if he got that, you know, if Clemens didn't get knocked out, because he doesn't know. He's 42 years old. He doesn't pitch on 3 days rest.
Well, I send Roger Clemens out there, and Roger tells me he's okay. Let's go with it.
1 ball and 2 strikes. There goes Furcal. The throw down by Osmus. Not in time. Vizcaino with the coverage, but Furcal steals the bag. His 2nd steal of the series.
That looked like a splitter, which is a perfect pitch, Yeah, it is. And it's a tougher pitch for Osmus to throw on, but you can see it wasn't even close at second base. Good job by Furcal to get down there and put himself in the scoring position.
So now it is 3-2 to Drew. Now this could get serious in a hurry for Clemens with Giles and then Chipper Jones coming up next.
Well, the one thing about Roger Clemens, he's thrown 2 splitters in a row low. That doesn't mean that he won't throw you another one.
And now Clemens wants Osmus to come out and talk it over.
And that may be what we're discussing here. I mean, Osmus was calling something else, and Clemens said, well, I still want to throw him a splitter. That's the pitch that I think I can get him out with, and he's not afraid to do it. Well, Osmus is going to try to talk him into what he thinks is the right pitch at this time.
Well, he threw him a fastball with 2 strikes in the first inning when you thought maybe a splitter might be coming up. And Drew hit it to the deepest part of the yard, and it was caught out there by Beltran on Towles Hill. So now he ends up walking him this time, and 2 men are on with nobody out.
Well, the one thing that you do not expect is for Roger Clemens to help you out with a 3-run lead, but he just helped him out. No matter what happens, he put another runner on base, which brings the tying run to the plate.
Marcus Giles coming up.
And I know you don't do this with your third place hitter, but if Marcus Giles looks down at third base and he sees Ensberg's deep, this would be a great time just to drop down a bunt. You know, you got a long way to go to try to make up those 3 runs. You don't have to do it all at once. And especially when you're facing elimination.
Giles with Chipper Jones on deck, nobody out. 5-2 Houston. And a fastball for a strike. Giles hit .311 during the season, and he hit .320 with men in scoring position. So he was a very potent bat in that Atlanta lineup, but he has only 2 hits in 16 at-bats in this series so far.
He's a really good player. I mean, he is a good player. I mean, he does everything pretty much correctly on the field.
Got the slider that time, fouling it off the screen to the right. 0-2 the count. Bobby Cox, and he knows that with these guys up, with men on base already, this is when Atlanta needs to score. This is when they were not able to score against Clemens in Wednesday's game 1. Furcal, number 1, the runner at second. Drew at first. Both have a lot of speed, especially Furcal. Clemens with that fastball off the outside.
Johnny, one of the reasons a lot of teams and managers do not like their third place hitter to be a right-handed hitter, you know, in this situation is because you have runners at first and second, 1 little sinker, 1 ground ball, and the inning's over. And that's one of the things about having a right-handed hitter, unless he is obviously a great right-handed hitter, like Albert Pujols. But, I mean, that's the chance you take. If you're a leadoff hitter and your second place hitter get on, you're 1 ground ball away from, you know, the inning being almost over.
Back to the slider again, and he misses. 2-2 the count. The Braves got a hit from Andrew Jones with a man in scoring position in the second inning, but as a team, only 6 hits in 30 at-bats in these kinds of clutch situations in the series. So Giles cannot get it done, and that's the way it's gone for him in this series. Now 2 for 17.
Well, that was a good splitter. I mean, with 2 strikes, you know, Roger Clemens is just tough. He took a good fastball right on the edge. Fastball slider fouled off to the right. Misses with a fastball slider. Now here's the splitter. And it's just too tough a pitch to handle right there. It looks like it's in the strike zone. All of a sudden it's out. You have to be very disciplined to take that pitch with 2 strikes. And Roger knows that. So he starts it in the strike zone, and he gets the hitter to go out of the strike zone.
Jim Hickey, the pitching coach, goes out to the mound now. Marcus Giles goes down on strikes. 2 men on, 1 man out. Chipper Jones coming up. Now tonight on ESPN, 2 teams with high expectations this season will meet in Washington. Ray Lewis, Jamal Lewis, and the Baltimore Ravens take on Clinton Portis and the Washington Redskins under Joe Gibbs. Ravens Redskins also available in high definition on ESPN HD. Call your cable operator, DirecTV, or the Dish Network today. coverage begins with NFL Primetime presented by Miller Lite at 7:30 Eastern. All right, so Clemens with 2 men on, 1 man out, up against Chipper Jones. And that breaking ball for a strike. Chipper got his first hit of the series in the 2nd inning, and he scored a run. He started a 2-run rally with that single. Of course, Chipper, you think of Chipper, you think of RBIs. He's the RBI guy. That's the short. Nice pickup by Vizcaino. 1. Kent to first. 2. Double play. The side is retired. And Vizcaino made a sensational grab of that ball, which started to skid. The inning is over. 5-2 Houston. Astros 5, Braves 2, last of the 3rd inning. And at this point, the Astros would be settled, or they would settle for League Championship Series bound to face the winner of the St. Louis Dodgers Division Series. But that fan had higher aspirations even. Jeff Kent, he singled in the 2nd inning against Ortiz, starting a 5-run rally. And that is too low. 2-0 the count. Ensberg and Vizcaino will follow. 5-2 Houston ahead. Quite a double play turn by Vizcaino to end the Atlanta 3rd inning. That's hit sharply, 1 hop, and Giles throws out Kent, 1 away.
Well, Chipper Jones did hit the ball hard. The Braves were just missing the gloves early in the ball game. Nice play by Vizcaino, perfect feed. Kent was a little late getting there because Chipper Jones is a pull hitter in a way, and he turns it and makes the throw. Chipper thought he was safe at first base, but it looked like it was a nice turn there by Jeff Kent.
One ball and no strikes now to Ensberg, with Vizcaino coming out on deck. Ensberg hit a single into right field to accelerate that rally back in the 2nd inning. Kent and Ensberg hit consecutive singles to start the rally off. That's a called strike on the outside.
Well, Vizcaino makes the play. He's playing up the middle, backhands it, flips it to Kent. As I said, Kent was just a little late getting there.
I think Vizcaino had that runner for Carl going right in his field of vision, and that ball didn't take as much of the bounce as I think maybe Vizcaino thought it was.
Yeah, but the thing he did well is he was down on it. And remember, as an infielder, it's always easier to come up than it is to go down.
So get down,
and then react. Yeah.
But guys sometimes don't do it that way.
No.
But I'm not pointing a finger at you.
I was already low. I didn't have to get down very much. I was already down low, John, so it wasn't like, you know, I had to really get down real low. I was already down there.
All right, so
yeah.
So you were already.
I was already down there, yeah, to start with.
It was like a big bounce was a problem for you.
Yeah, big bounce was a problem.
Yeah. Little Joe, that was the nickname. Did you like that nickname?
Yeah, that didn't bother me. I'd been little all my life.
There's a strike to Vizcaino.
Actually, being honest with you, it was a challenge, and it was good.
Well, I mean, there was little Joe Cartwright in that old series, Bonanza.
Yeah, but he wasn't little. And he wasn't playing baseball, so
you wanted to be called a Hoss. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Yeah, Hoss Morgan.
I'm John Miller with the Hoss Morgan. Yeah. Big Hoss. 1-1 the count. Well, there was nothing little about the stats you put up at the end of the year.
I'll take them. As if I was making an acceptance speech somewhere, I say, well, look, they were better than I ever thought they would be.
Joe with 2 MVP awards after he left the Astros. Yeah. I noticed you didn't win anyone. You were with Houston.
Well, we played in a lot different ballpark then. They had the Astrodome then, and it was the biggest ballpark in the world. And I think it really hurt my roommate Jimmy Wynn more than it did anybody else, even though he hit 37 home runs there.
The toy cannon.
Toy cannon was unbelievable.
Power.
Yeah.
Off Ortiz glove. Look out. Giles and Furcal collide in shallow center field, even though neither one of them was going to have a play on Vizcaino.
I have to tell you, Marcus Giles should be more careful. I mean, he got hit by Pryor. I mean, he's run into guys several times in his career. I've got to know where the shortstop is if I'm Giles, as much as he's had contact with other players on the field. And like you said, neither one of them was going to throw him out. There comes a time, like when the ball's going through like that, a lot of infielders let it go because you may hit it off your glove and knock it into left center and it becomes a double. Instead, if it goes straight away, the outfielder comes in and picks it up and holds the guy to a single.
Now Brad Ausmus. Ausmus, and a big play that could be overlooked after everything else that happened in that second inning. He got a walk with 2 men on and 1 man out, and the pitcher coming up next. And Ortiz ended up walking him to load the bases.
Yeah, I thought that was the big play, John, even though Roger Clemens did a great job of getting the runner in. But you could have gotten 3 outs before you get to Craig Biggio.
I mean, Ausmus, he's not in the lineup because of his bat.
Right.
He's an excellent receiver. Works pitches real well. But he hit 248 for the season with only 5 home runs. And he had only 31 RBIs. He hit 206 with men in scoring position. And yet Ortiz ended up walking him. That turned out to be a very big play in that inning. Clemens followed it up with a sacrifice fly. And Ortiz misses down and away. 2-0 the count to Ausmus. Maybe it's something about Ausmus. Ortiz just can't seem to throw on the strike.
I think part of the problem was when he fell behind, he looked over, he saw Roger Clemens on deck. And that's okay if you're in a tie ball game late in the ball game. But when you have a 2-run lead, I don't think you worry about trying to get to the pitcher.
2-0. Vizcaino at first. Left center field. Andrew Jones. And that is the inning. 1 hit, 1 left. On to the 4th. Estrada, then Andrew Jones coming up. 5-2 Houston. This is Minute Maid Park in Houston. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan, also joined by our colleague Gary Miller. And the Astros are leading 5-2. Johnny Estrada, first ball swinging on a curveball from Roger Clemens, bouncing a foul. Estrada got a single in the second inning, part of a 2-run Atlanta rally. Now these last 2 innings, after Clemens had a 1-2-3 first inning, Atlanta has put 6 men on base in just the last 2 innings. 5 hits and a walk, but they've only been able to score 2 runs. They've hit 2 double play balls in that time, as Estrada fouls one off to the left. In fact, Joe, back in the second inning, they had a run home and 2 men on with nobody out and could not get anybody else home. They had 2 men on and nobody out, and they're 3-4 hitters up. They're 2 big hitters and could not get anybody home. And that's the all too familiar lament for the Braves in this series so far. 0-2 to Johnny Estrada. Andrew Jones on deck. Adam LaRoche due up 3rd. The Astros are leading 5-2.
Obviously, Bobby Cox knows his lineup and his players much better than I do because I don't see him that often. But I would wonder why you would hit Giles 3rd today instead of, say, Andrew Jones, who is having a good series, and put Giles in Andrew Jones' spot. I mean, I'm just wondering out loud here. I'm not second guessing him because I don't know the circumstances of which he decided to do this or why he decided to do it.
1-2. And that is a slider in the dirt for a ball. 2-2. Well, I mean, Andrew Jones, including his single today, now 7 for 19 lifetime against Clemens with a home run.
And he hit a home run yesterday to get him back in the ball game, and he's done well in the game. I mean, it's just wondering out loud.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
it's just one of those.
Just between me and you, just me and you talking. Yeah, just me and you talking.
Yeah, just between you and me.
Yeah, the fans at home, I got my button down. I don't want them to know that.
Estrada thrown out by Jeff Kent. 1 away, and here comes Andrew Jones. Well, just between you and me and the fans.
Yeah. We don't want, You see, Roger, I mean, look at him shaking his head. That tells you a little bit right there. It was a great shot. I mean, Roger is not comfortable out there on the mound. He knows that he can't reach back and give you the fastball that he wants. See right there, he knows he did not make the pitch exactly where he wanted. But he also knows that he's ahead 5-2, and he knows how to win that ball game when he's ahead 5-2. He knows how to get the job done. He may not be able to do it under the circumstances with which he wants to get it done, but he knows he can get it done.
Well, Clemens, 42 years old. Wednesday, he became the oldest pitcher ever to win a postseason game. And if he did not start today, who was going to start? That slider bounced foul. I mean, the Astros' fourth starter at the end of the year was Pete Monroe, who was 4-7 with a 5.27 ERA as a starter this year. The Astros starting rotation right now is basically Roger Clemens, Roy Oswalt, then Brandon Backey, who had 10 starts in his career before yesterday. And then it's, you know, Pickham. 0-2 the count. I want
to take that a step further, though, John. Clemens is working on 3 days rest. He figures he's got to get it done today. Oswalt could pitch tomorrow. Now, obviously, you know how great a season Oswalt has had. But remember now, he's had a rib cage injury all year, too. And he's not going to have full rest himself.
That curveball is lined over Kent into right center field. That's a base hit. Berkman hustles over to cut it off. And it will hold Andrew Jones at first base. Well, let's get the opinion of the Express. Nolan Ryan, in whose image Roger Clemens fashioned himself, standing by with Gary Miller.
Roger Clemens, the Express, watching the Rocket. You know, lots made, Nolan, of the 3 days rest. What's your theory on 3 days rest for a pitcher in the postseason?
Well, that's someone like Roger. I think it depends on the individual, but he's such a competitor that you know he'll be ready for the game. He may not be as sharp as you'd like him to be, but he's going to be there.
There's so much anticipation on the streets, especially once you get inside the building today. You know what it's like. You were part of those teams that couldn't quite get there. What would it mean to this city if they're able to win today or tomorrow and get into the next round?
Well, I think it'd be very special because of the way the season's played out this year and the fact the fans have supported them all year. So it will be very special if they go to the next level.
Nolan, how different was it? Phil Garner told us before the game that he saw that this turned into a baseball town when things were going bad. When the town actually got mad and got upset, it was the manner of the expectations. How did you see this summer playing out?
Well, that's the way I saw it. I was talking to Drayton one day, and I said, Drayton, you know, one thing the fans didn't do was quit us. And during the course of the season where we had that 6-week spell where we played so poorly, the fans were there to support us, and it shows in the $3 million that they drew.
Right. One more question for you, Nolan. When you won it all in '69 as a little kid, how many more times do you think you were going to have a shot at that?
Well, I think because of our youth, we assumed we would be in that position a lot, you know, and I think that's inexperience in youth. And so when I see this situation, I realize how fortunate you are to be in this position and how important it is.
You know, Nolan's calm and cool, but he gets a little excited. He's sitting when guys are standing. Safe play there, but I saw you stand for Biggio's homer. John?
All right. Nolan Ryan.
It was interesting, John. Nolan Ryan and I were teammates in 1980, and we were sitting at the same position. In Game 5, Nolan Ryan was pitching, and I think we were ahead 4-2 against the Phillies. I can't remember the exact score. I know he had a lead.
That was the score.
All right. See, I'm better than I thought.
In the 8th inning, Nolan never got a man out.
Never got a guy out.
The Phillies ended up scoring 5 runs or something. Runner goes, and the throw is too late. And a steal for Andrew Jones. Bobby Cox keeps trying to make something happen.
And add one here, add one there. And that was, I mean, he had that stolen easily. I mean, no one had a chance to throw him out. I mean, look at that. He was running. Look at, when he starts to throw, he is already 3/4 of the way down. And a good job by Vizcaino just to keep it from going in the outfield. Great jump by Andrew Jones. And this is your job as a shortstop or a second baseman. Do not let the ball go in the outfield. If it bounces, block it. Whatever you have to do, keep the ball on the infield. But back to that point, Nolan Ryan and I both had come back here to play together. And I really felt very comfortable with him on the mound at that point. But it didn't work out.
That is ball 4 to Adam LaRoche. So 2 men are on now with 1 man out. That game that you're talking about, Joe, eventually ended up going extra innings.
Yeah. And Gary Maddox got a base hit for Philadelphia, and they won.
That was one of the great league championship series when they were still best of 5. That was one of the best ones I thought ever played.
Yes,
there
it
were
was.
some good ones, but that was one of the greats. So Clemens and Ausmus talking it over at the mound. There's a stirring now in the Astros bullpen. And the Astros are going to get some action going out there.
John, not that this is the inning, but I said, you know, the first 3 innings, the adrenaline would carry him. Actually, I think it was the first inning. The adrenaline carried him right through the first inning. But after that, then you have to pitch. You have to be able to deal with the circumstances as they come. And right now, he's starting to struggle a little bit.
Here's Eli Marrero, and that is 0-1.
But remember, he's still 1 pitch away again. A good sinker. He threw him a good splitter there. 1 good sinker or splitter, ground ball, and you can get out of the inning.
Well, the Braves, in these last 3 innings, have now had 6 hits and received 2 walks. 8 men have reached in 2 1/3 innings against Clemens.
And if you watch, as you see, the Astros have started.
That's Gallo, the left-hander, and Harville, the right-hander, up.
But if you watch Roger, and I watched him especially closely on that last pitch, he was not free with that fastball. It wasn't a free flowing arm motion as he had at the beginning of the ballgame.
This will be his 65th pitch, and only the 4th inning of the splitter in the dirt, taken by Marrero, who had an infield hit his first time. And the count is 2-1. Clemens, who walked a career record 6 in that game Wednesday.
You can see him trying to extend out, and it's like a dart, extending it rather than, you know, popping his wrist and the free-flowing arm motion.
So this big crowd, a little nervous right now, a little pensive. This is not what they were hoping to see from Clemens today. Ooh, it came back with a 94-mile-an-hour fastball that exploded up there high in the zone. 2-2.
And he gets him to go up out of the zone on this pitch. But it looked like a fastball middle in, and Eli Marrero thought he could handle it. But you can see it's well up in the strike zone, or out of the strike zone.
Dwayne Wise has come out on deck with Russ Ortiz due next. Well, he came right back with another one this time. Marrero had a pretty good swing at it and fouled it straight back. 2-2. Clemens has allowed 21 base runners in this series in 10 1/3 innings pitched. But again, the Braves have not really taken much advantage of all of those base runners. Kevin Grabowski up in the Atlanta bullpen. That is a foul, and he stays alive. Just getting a piece of that splitter. Now Osmus is going to go out and chat with Clemens again. They've had a lot of face-to-face meetings during this game.
Well, John, I think the difference is Roger knows how he feels today. Osmus knows how Roger normally pitches and what pitches he normally likes to throw in certain counts. Well, Roger doesn't feel the same today that he did, you know, during the middle of the season. So now maybe he wants to change his pattern. I feel better throwing this pitch, whereas Osmus is used to calling another pitch in that same situation.
Well, that's an excellent point. So Osmus really needs to have these frequent meetings with Roger, because he's not sure himself
exactly
what Roger feels is working today.
Exactly.
2-2 to Marrero. 2 men on, 1 man out. Another splitter that goes right through the legs of Osmus, and the runners advance. Andrew Jones to third, LaRoche over to second. On the wild pitch, suddenly the Braves now are a base hit away from making it a 1-run game.
And you can see the ball clearly hits the dirt in front of the plate. He tried to block it, it looked like, but it went just inside his left thigh and went on back to the pin, back to the screen.
To the left-handed batting, Dwayne Wise on deck. And a 3-2 count to Eli Marrero. Roger Clemens from the windup here. The infield back, normal deck. The splitter struck him out. Two down.
And that surprises me a little bit from Eli Marrero, who is a very good hitter, that he wasn't taking a shot toward right field to make sure he puts this ball in play. Watch him pull off. See, he pulls way off of that pitch. Roger makes a good pitch, and he pulls off to help him. That was not a great splitter in that it stayed, you know, well above the knees, but Marrero pulled off of it. And that's unlike him. He's usually a much better hitter with 2 strikes going back through the middle.
All right, here is Dwayne Wise the rookie, 26 years old, pinch hitting for Russ Ortiz. And a ball outside. Wise has faced Clemens and has never had a hit against him. 0 for 6 lifetime. Wise has hit a double in this series. 1 for 3. Base hit could make this a one-run game. Here are the Braves, as they've been so many times, looking for that big hit. Fastball misses up and away. 2-0. Russ Ortiz finished. He lasted only 3 innings. 5 runs, 7 hits. Bobby Cox before the game talking about what he needed today with his bullpen stretched thin. Said, hey, we're going to be in real bad shape if Ortiz only lasts 3 innings or so. But he only lasted 3. 3-0 the count to Wise. Rafael Furcal is on deck.
And Rogers digging a little hole for himself here. You'd rather face Wise than to have to pitch to Furcal with the bases loaded.
Clemens has thrown 26 pitches in this inning. Andrew Jones at third. Adam LaRoche at second. And you see the crowd, which has been so loud at times yesterday and today, right now. And they're feeling the heat themselves. 3-0 the count. And he pours that one through there for a strike. It's 3-1.
And as I said in the second inning, the Braves knew that they were going to have some shots at Roger Clemens today, but you still have to deliver.
Three and 1. 94-mile-an-hour heat. 3-2. Roger Clemens, 42 years old, as he said. He says, I'm not worried about my arm, not worried about my body. I don't want to be sitting on the sidelines while everything is unfolding. So now on short rest, obviously not himself. Trying to reach back into that reservoir to keep this lead at 3.
And John, that's a good point. You can reach back a few times during a ball game when you're not up to 100%, but you just can't reach back every pitch.
Right center field, a long run for Beltran. He's there now, and the side is retired. A 29-pitch inning for Roger Clemens. He gets through it. The frustrations continue for the Braves. 2 men stranded. 5 to.
And I've been waiting for this moment all my life.
Back here at Minute Maid Park, I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan, and Gary Miller also here with us. It's 5-2 Houston, that big 5-run second inning. Roger Clemens drove in the first of those runs with a sacrifice fly. Now Clemens facing Kevin Grabowski. Grabowski, big, strong, hard-throwing sinker baller on in relief of Russ Ortiz. Craig Biggio on deck, and then Carlos Beltran due up third in the inning. Grabowski, a busy man during the season, and he's pretty good at what he does. 2.84 ERA. And that's a foul out of play off to the right by Clemens. 5-2, Houston ahead. Man, this has got to be if you're a Braves fan or in that Braves dugout, you're wondering, when is this stretch of futility going to end? They just can't get the big hit. 3 consecutive innings. They've had runners all over the bases against Clemens, but they've gotten only 2 runs, even though they've had numerous chances to do more than that. But they've hit a couple of double play balls, and they've now had 1 hit in 6 at-bats with runners in scoring position in this game. Russ Ortiz out of the game. Very disappointing. Ortiz, who was a 20-game winner last year, came back, won 15 this year. In fact, at midseason, looked like he might well win 20 again.
You know, the interesting thing, John, last year there were 5 pitchers that won 20 ball games, you know, including Russ Ortiz. This year, he's the only one of those that ended up with 10 wins, more than 10 wins. That's amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
5 guys.
2-2 the count. Clemens. There's Giles. And that is 1 away. Craig Biggio coming up now, and Biggio had the big home run back in the second. John Tamargo, the bench coach for the Astros, wearing a microphone. Let's listen.
That's
the first time Biggio had ever driven in a run against the Braves in 4 different postseason series against them.
That's an amazing thing, especially when it was the Killer Bees that had to get the job done all those years, and they couldn't get it done.
Well, Bagwell had never driven in a run in any of those previous 3 series either. But, you know, for these two guys, they've been around a long time. They've been teammates together. They've been in some excellent Houston clubs who have been shut down by Atlanta over and over again in the postseason. Now the count 1-1 to Biggio.
And
this is like this almost in some ways the last chance for redemption. I mean, they have a lot of things at stake to try and get this off their back, because that was sort of a scar on their otherwise excellent careers.
But John, in defense of those two guys a little bit, I mean, you were facing Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, Avery. I mean, you were facing, you know, the best pitchers in the league at that time that were on one team, and they always ended up having to play the Atlanta Braves.
1-2 to Biggio, and now 2 balls, 2 strikes. But you know, obviously everybody's revved up and the adrenaline is flowing. But for these two guys, you would figure there's even a little more at stake.
Well, but I think if you're Biggio, I know Bagwell a little better than I know Craig. I mean, I know him well also, but I know Bagwell very well. That's why I was stating when they moved him back to third, it made a big difference in his approach, in the team's approach, and in the fact that they started winning. And that's Jeff Bagwell. Knowing him as I do, I think that at this point, they've been at this point so many times, I would have to say that they're probably more relaxed today than at any other time. That's the way I would feel knowing them as I do.
3-2 the count. Biggio with a pop fly along the left field line. Foucault calls off Chipper Jones. Out number 2. 2 down, and here is Carlos Beltran. The Astros have never beaten anybody in a playoff series, and that's not just this group, not just the Biggio-Bagwell Astros of the last several years. They've lost, that group had lost 3 to Atlanta, plus 1 to San Diego back in 1998. And a lot of people thought they were the best team in the league in '98. But it ended up, San Diego ended up in the World Series. Kevin Brown pitched one of the great games ever seen
That was
in a
against Randy
postseason
Johnson,
game against Randy Johnson when the big unit was with Houston.
We did that ball game.
Yeah, and Kevin Brown looked more like the big unit that day than the big unit. What do you have? 16 strikeouts in 8 innings. And Randy pitched a very strong game, but lost that game 1. And eventually San Diego went on, and then San Diego beat Atlanta and went to the World Series against the Yankees. 2-0 the count to Beltran, who has lined out to right and also hit a double. There is the right-hander Chad Qualls up in the Houston bullpen. And Garner said that likely Qualls would be the first guy out of the bullpen if Clemens could give him at least 5. He'd like to have Qualls in there for the 5th and 6th. Qualls has done or for the 6th and 7th, he said, but maybe that's going to be adjusted now. Clemens threw 29 pitches in the 4th and has thrown 76 pitches in the game. And Joe, I mean, from what we saw a guy struggling.
Yeah, well, he's definitely, but we also saw a guy that knows how to pitch even when he's struggling. He was able to make the big pitches that he needed, you know, to get out of the inning, to get out of the jam. And there's something to be said for that, John. I know we've seen a lot of postseason games this year, and we've seen a lot of guys with great stuff not be able to get the job done. So maybe it's not just about the physical. You have to have the mental part of it to make this work as well.
Beltran with the walk with 2 down, and that keeps the inning going to Jeff Bagwell. You mentioned when Bagwell moved to the 3rd spot, Beltran had been hitting 3rd, and why not? I mean, the guy's got all this talent. He's a switch hitter. He's got power. He can run, but he wasn't doing it. He wasn't hitting.
Right.
So Garner came in and said, well, let's move Bagwell back to the 3rd. Bagwell would hit 5th, even 6th sometimes, and he was struggling big time. But Beltran caught fire in the number 2 spot. Bagwell started looking like Bagwell again, and everybody caught fire. And they went 38-11 right up to this day since late August.
And make no mistake about it, when you move a guy like Bagwell out of the 3rd slot, he's been there all his career, most of his career, and he's produced for you, and you move him down, that's really a shock, and it's really something that eats at you if you're a 3rd place hitter. See, there's something about a 3rd place hitter. Remember the 3rd place hitters in the history of the game, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, all those great there's something about it. Ted Williams, those 3rd place hitters, Clemente, they had something special to be there, and I think Jeff Bagwell is the same way. And when you move him out of that spot, especially down the 5th or 6th, you know, that's a blow to his ego, and he didn't accept it too well to start with. I mean, he voiced his opinion, and rightfully so. And but I think everything changed around when he was moved back to the 3rd slot. But this became a better team again.
But even as significant, if even not more significant, was when he moved back to number 3. Beltran got hot.
Yeah, moved to number 2. And again, maybe Beltran is not a 3rd place hitter. I mean, like I said, it takes a certain mental toughness, mental approach to the game to hit 3rd. A lot of guys, when you move them from, say, 2nd or another position to 3rd, they try too hard. They try to hit the ball out of the ballpark all the time. They, you know, they figure that's a power position they have to produce there. Bagwell knows how to hit 3rd.
And that's too low.
Well, and it's obvious that Beltran knows how to hit 2nd.
Alex Rodriguez knew how to hit 3rd. He was an outstanding 3rd place hitter, but in his new ball club, or with his new ball club this year, Joe Torre thought he was often trying a little too hard. And since A-Rod moved to the number 2 spot, that, I mean, he has really taken off. 2-1 the count. As for Kyle, let's see this arm. And right there for the out to end the inning. 1 man left. On to the 5th inning. The top of the order for Kyle, Drew, and Giles. Will Roger come back out? We'll be back to find out. More of the National League Division Series, the Astros and the Braves. The Astros leading 2-1 and leading in this game 5-2 back of the Rocket. The great Roger Clemens, 328 regular season victories. So he's already on that list of being one of the great all-time starting pitchers in the history of this game. Back this year in his hometown for the first time. He grew up. He used to go to the Astrodome as a kid, and when Nolan Ryan was pitching, he'd go down near the Astros bullpen when Ryan would warm up before the game, because he loved to hear the ball pop into the mitt. It used to make a kind of an exploding sound. And Clemens used to say, that's the kind of pitcher I want to be. So he patted himself after the Ryan Express. And Nolan Ryan pitched until, what, 46 years old. He was still throwing 94, 95 miles an hour because he had an amazing workout regimen, and he never deviated from it. And that has been what Roger Clemens has done. And as for Kyle, now with a count of 1-2. Clemens has stayed in superb physical shape through all these years. One ball and 2 strikes. The splitter for the strikeout. His 4th strikeout of the game. Now let's go down to Gary Miller.
John, as Rafael Furcal strikes out, nobody wants to see the Braves extend their season more than he does. If it ends today or whenever this postseason ends, by 5 o'clock the next afternoon, he will have to go to a Cobb County jail for having his 2nd DUI offense in 4 years. He'll be in there for 21 days and then 28 days in a recovery center. So Rafael Furcal, who Bobby Cox swears by, he says, you know, he's just a great guy. He made a mistake, but he's tested every day. He's got somebody with him. He's basically under house arrest here in Houston, and he's hoping that the Braves play for a while.
All right, and here is J.D. Drew, and that's in there for a called strike. Well, Rafael Furcal, who I'm sure would like to get to the World Series, and because the time he's going to spend in jail and the rehab and all that kind of stuff, that's not going to get shorter just because the season goes any longer. 2-1 the count to J.D. Drew. Drew has driven one deep to center. It turned into an outstanding catch by Beltran, and then he walked his last time. 2-1 the count. And that curve is high and away for a ball. 3-1.
Well, again, Roger is definitely not on top of his game, but if he gets in trouble, he seems to be able to reach back and make the pitch. As I said, you can reach back and make pitches 3 or 4 times a game. You just can't do it on a every pitch basis as you can do during the regular season.
That splitter ripped foul by Drew. 3-2 the count. The Braves keep, I'm sure Bobby Cox keeps thinking, you know, Drew, Chipper Jones, Marcus Jones, at some point they're going to start all getting hot. They've all been struggling.
Well, that's Bobby Cox's theory.
Strike 3 called. Clemens with another strikeout.
Well, he throws him a 3-2 slider. It looked more like a cut fastball. No, that's a slider right on the inside corner, and J.D. Drew knows it. Looked like a perfect pitch.
So 2 down. He struck out for a call swinging. He strikes out Drew looking. And Clemens has struck out 3 of the last 4 hitters that he's faced here, even though he has had to labor through each of the last 3 innings. Now he got a chance for a 1-2-3 inning, and he needs one. Marcus Giles has flied out and struck out, and that's 1 hop to third. And Roger Clemens retires the side in order. He's given him 5. 5-2 Houston. There's a panoramic view of Minute Maid Park in Houston. The Astros 5. The Atlanta Braves 2. Last of the 5th inning now. The score favoring the Astros, but it's close enough that I'm sure the Astros still feel a little uneasy about it as Lance Berkman leads off here against Grabowski, fouling one into the upper deck off to the left. Berkman has lined out to second and struck out. He's the cleanup hitter. He'll be followed by Jeff Kent and Morgan Ensberg. Talking with Phil Garner before the game, Joe, about managing against Atlanta, and one thing that was a theme that he hearkened to 2 or 3 times in the discussion, off the glove of LaRoche, that took a big hop and was hit very hard, and LaRoche got a glove on it but couldn't handle it, and Berkman is aboard.
Not only is this a good ballpark when you hit the ball in the air, this is a tough infield too. The ball hops wickedly right there off the edge. It jumps up, and LaRoche tries to make the catch, and he can't do it. Watch the ball take the big bounce. So this is a good hitting ballpark. If you hit it hard on the ground, you can get some results. You hit it hard in the air, you got big results.
So Berkman is aboard, now Kent. But Phil Garner, the one thing he kept coming back to about managing against Atlanta is managing to try and keep John Smoltz out of the game. He said that was one of the reasons that he brought in Lynch early in game 2 in Atlanta, because he wanted to strike out. The Braves were only down by a run. He did not want them to tie because he thought, well, if they tie it, Smoltz will be coming in the 8th.
Well, there are a lot of times that happens. I mean, you manage to keep Mariano Rivera out of the game. Your great closers, you manage to keep Gagne out. I mean, the great closers, you manage to keep them out of the game. I mean, you know it's a short ball game. You get it to the 8th inning or something, and you look up and they're warming up down the bullpen. It changes everything.
So he felt also it was important for them to be ahead early in this game, because he thinks, Garner thinks, that the situation presented itself, Smoltz could be in as early as the 7th inning. And the more we talked, the earlier it got. Garner said a little bit later, in fact, he might even bring him out of the 6th inning.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't think Bobby would do that, and I'll tell you why. Because if you win today and you've used all your bullets up today, what are you going to do tomorrow? You still need John Smoltz. No matter what you say, you've got to win 2 games, not 1. He's in a little different situation now.
And the sinker down and in from Grabowski. 2-1 the count to Jeff Kent. Alfonseca, the right-hander. Tom Martin, the left-hander, up in the Atlanta bullpen.
And remember, if you win today, there's not an off day tomorrow. So if Smoltz were to pitch 3 innings today, and then you need him for 2 or 1 to close out game 5, you're asking a lot of your closer.
Well, I agree with you. And on the other hand, Phil Garner was not going to take that for granted.
Yeah.
because he does not want to have a game in Atlanta. He does not want to leave it to them having to win a winner-take-all game in Atlanta. He wants to end it today.
Well, that makes sense. You definitely do not ever want to play a deciding game on the road if you can help it.
And he really doesn't know it, as Brandon Backey was excellent yesterday to win that pivotal game 3. He's not quite sure what to expect from Oswalt tomorrow, as Jeff Kent got jammed with that sinker and strikes out. That is one away here in the 5th. Tomorrow night, Monday Night Countdown at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN to get you ready for Monday Night Football at 9 Eastern on ABC. Monday Night Football, Steve McNair, Brett Favre will do battle on football's biggest stage. And at halftime of the game, catch the debut of Tim McGraw's new video celebrating 35 years of Monday Night Football. Monday Night Countdown, ESPN. Monday Night Football, ABC. Here's Morgan Ensberg, and it is 0-1. Ensberg has singled and grounded out to second. How about Jose Lima? Talking about keeping Gagne out of the game. Lima kept Gagne out of the game himself.
He was amazing.
He picked a pretty good time to pitch his best game of the whole year.
And he was having fun doing it. That's what I like. I mean, when they say Lima time, they mean Lima time in L.A. Everything's going to be up a notch.
Phil Garner, the Houston manager, managed Lima in Detroit. And he said he never got a negative piece of mail from any Tigers fans in regards to Jose Lima. He said there were times himself he'd get a little annoyed with Lima. So he said the reaction he got was the fans liked him. But running on the play is Berkman, but a foul ball out of play. 1 ball, 2 strikes now to Ensberg.
Well, how can you not like him? I mean, everything he does, he never shows up the other team. He's not like mean-spirited when he's, you know, pumping his fist or doing something. Because he does the same thing when he gets knocked around a little bit. I mean, he just does not change. And that's what really, you know, that helps his teammates. I mean, they had to feel good going home, even down 2-0, knowing that, you know, they were going to have Lima out there. It was going to be a party.
1-2 the count. Into the hole at short for Kyle gets to it. There's one. Giles to first. Nice. A double play. Very nicely turned and started by Furcal. Chipper Jones coming up onto the 6th.
And I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, oh Lord.
And from the last row of the upper deck seating here at Minute Maid Park, the view of this huge crowd as Chipper Jones faces the new pitcher. Roger Clemens gave them 5, departs with a 3-run lead, and now it goes to the bullpen. Chad Qualls, 26 years old, and he has evolved into one of the most trusted men out of that Houston bullpen for Phil Garner. Qualls, who started the year in AAA with New Orleans as a starter reliever, his numbers were not very promising. But the more he got used down the stretch, the better he seemed to perform. Chipper Jones with a base hit to center. His second hit of the game is, in fact, his first 2 hits of this series have come today.
John, I will never understand why pitchers do that sometimes. He threw him 2 sliders. He looked real bad on them. Then he tries to throw a fastball by him inside, and he gets a base hit. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't waste a fastball if you want to throw it and come back. Now he throws him a fastball. He had took 2 half swings on the slider, and you throw him a fastball. I'm not saying don't throw the fastball, but don't throw it where he can handle it.
Throw it a few inches off
the
corner.
I mean, it's an 0-2 pitch.
Here is Johnny Estrada, who singled his first time. There's plenty of time in this game for the Braves to rally. It's only the 6th inning. But Brad Lidge had been one of the best closers in the game, and he blew the Braves away in the 9th inning here yesterday. So if they're going to catch him, it'd probably be wise to catch him before Lidge gets into the game. And Lidge got into a game early here, game 2 in Atlanta. He came out in the 7th inning. Roger Clemens' final numbers, 5 innings, and they were tough innings.
Yeah.
2 runs, 6 hits allowed, 87 pitches thrown. But again,
he was up to the challenge.
Whenever they tested him, he held the line. This time he stayed with that slider. Strike 3. All right, so he's a quick study, Joe. You didn't have to tell. He saw it for himself.
I mean, they haven't even come close to touching his slider. He threw Chipper an 0-2 fastball. He got the base hit on. Now he comes back with the slider, and Estrada swings over the top of it. It must be a very deceptive slider, so you can continue to throw it if you need to.
And strike 1 to Andrew Jones. Andrew has had 2 hits today and has had 8 hits in 14 at-bats in this series. He's had an RBI and a steal in today's game. Qualls pitched the 7th inning yesterday. He was the first reliever in behind Backey in game 3. That slider is hung and drilled down the left field line. I mean, right now, Andrew Jones not missing anything. He's going to try for 2. Here comes a throw. 2.
Well, he was safe.
Close.
Well, he was safe because he missed his left arm. I think Kent started to put the glove in the middle of the bag where he thought he was going to slide, and Andrew Jones' left arm was on the inside part of the bag.
Garner's going to go out and argue with Tony Randazzo, the second base umpire.
Well, there's that hanging slider, but right now Andrew Jones looks locked in. I mean, he's hitting sliders to the left, sliders to the right. I mean, he's just swinging the bat very well. And watch his left arm. See that? He's in. He's safe. Very good call. I can see his left arm right there. His left arm goes to the bag before Jeff Tent's able to tag him. It was a close play, you know, for the umpire, but you could visually see it. I could see it from up here that his left arm got in there before Jeff made the tag. Again, Jeff went toward the middle of the bag because he thought that's where he was going to slide, and then he had to extend over to the left-hand side. Now watch his arm. Watch his left arm out here. He's safe. See, Jeff was in the middle of the bag until, you know, he came to his left arm. But his left arm was on the bag by then.
So Andrew Jones took quite a gamble for a team that's down by 3. But he made it. And he had to. So the gamble was a good one.
Man.
Now LaRoche. That is deep to right center. This ball game's going to be tied. Into the upper deck. A tape measure shot by Adam LaRoche. And 4 batters after the departure of Clemens. The Atlanta Braves have come roaring back to tie the game. LaRoche just hit a shot. Man, that was a big fly.
Well, this is a ballpark that if you get the ball in the air, you got a good shot at getting it out of here. And those fans who were so boisterous, a few when Roger Clemens was standing out there on the mound, they've lost a little of that zeal. I mean, he just crushes this. It's looked like a high fastball, didn't do much. I mean, this is into the upper deck. Andrew says, yeah, we're tied, but I better make sure.
Upper deck. Now, Joe, you hit in the upper deck even in this ballpark.
And in right center as well. It wasn't down the line.
See, Kent, he just... it was almost like physically painful for Jeff Kent to watch that.
Well, I mean, whether they think it or know it or not, he was safe at second base. But I could see that from up here without the replay. He was safe.
I needed the replay. Not that I doubted you.
Yeah, but I could see his left arm get in there before Jeff went to it. The mistake was he went to the middle of the bag and Andrew went to the inside corner.
So Eli Marrero grounds out. And now Charles Thomas is going to come up as a pinch hitter for Kevin Grabowski. And suddenly this ballpark is extremely quiet. They've seen this before. I mean, the Astros have been in games like this before where things were going well and then did not turn out well, especially for them against Bobby Cox's Atlanta Braves.
And I think she's saying, well, why didn't we leave Roger in there for another inning? Again, and I said this beforehand, I don't believe that you should be like that. Roger finished the 5th inning very well. If he doesn't tell you that I got to come out, then I send him back out there for the 6th inning. I guess my point is I use him up all I can use today.
Now, we don't know. He might have.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, unless he told you that.
He had his best inning since the 1st inning.
Right.
11 pitches and out. Charles Thomas thrown out by Kent. The inning is over, but Chad Qualls gives up a 3-run homer to LaRoche. And we start over again. It's 5-5. The National League Division Series presented by Budweiser, and Adam LaRoche, the rookie, with a 3-run shot into the upper deck to tie this game and to energize this Atlanta ball club. Meanwhile, they are singularly lacking in energy here at Minute Maid Park at the moment. Alfonseca, the new pitcher, and Vizcaino hits one into the glove of Andrew Jones, one away.
And remember one thing, we talked about this earlier, Braves have scored a lot of runs late against this Houston staff. And there you see Alfonseca. It's up to him to do the job that Grabowski did. And we take it for granted that the Astros were 5-2, but they were shut out for 3 innings. Grabowski did a great job after Ortiz shut him out for 1 more. Grabowski came in and pitched 2 very good innings to give them a shot at getting back in this ball game.
Now, Brad Ausmus, Antonio Alfonseca, one-time closer, and had a very poor year with the Cubs last year. And they cut him loose. The Braves signed him, and he ended up doing well for Atlanta. 79 games he pitched in. And this is guy, he throws hard with a lot of movement.
Yeah, he does have good stuff. As long as he throws strikes, I think he's going to be all right.
Alfonseca gave up a couple of runs yesterday, working 2/3 of an inning. Mike Lamb, a left-handed hitter, has come out on deck. So the question now is just how thin is this Braves bullpen going to be? How much success can they have? Because Ortiz lasted only 3 innings. Grabowski, 2 innings, excellent. But they have several more innings to get now. Although maybe just a couple of more innings to get to Smoltz.
Yeah, I really believe that, you know, in this situation, you can get an inning here or an inning there out of a guy that's, even though he may be tired.
Did he swing? No, says first base umpire Joe Brinkman. 3-1 the count, and Alfonseca is not happy with that call.
Neither are the Braves on the bench. Let's take a look. And I can see why they're unhappy. That's a swing.
Yeah. Oh, are you kidding? Ay, caramba. I don't think he would have hit one over the wall and left, Joe, but I think he might have hit one off that wall.
Yeah.
On that check swing. That is ball 4, so Ausmus gets the walk for the 2nd time. And the first time was in the 2nd inning, and that led to a 5-run Houston rally. Or it was part of it anyway. So they keep walking Ausmus, who is a guy who hit .248 this year. And is not a home run threat. Here's Mike Lamb, .288 average. Lamb had formerly been with the Texas Rangers and was going to go to spring training with the Yankees this year. Except the Yankees then traded for Alex Rodriguez. And then Lamb ended up coming here to Houston, and he was quite a find for the Astros. And a ball in the dirt. Lamb was one of the best pinch hitters for the Astros this year. 11 hits in 36 pinch hit at bats with 10 pinch hit RBIs. 5-5, last of the 6th. And you see that movement, a 93-mile-an-hour fastball. It looked like he's throwing a wiffle ball the way that ball moves. 1 ball, 1 strike. There's Phil Garner. The best laid plans, Clemens gave him 5, 87 pitches. We don't know if Clemens asked out or if Garner decided enough's enough. But the man he brought in, Qualls, and it was the man he was talking about bringing in before the game, as early as the 6th inning, gave up a 3-run homer. And this game is tied. In left field, Charles Thomas, and Lamb is retired for out number 2. Ausmus back to first. Charles Thomas pinch hit for Grabowski in the first half of this inning, and he stays in the game to play left field. Alfonseca is in the 8th position in the order, as Marrero is now out of the game. Here is Craig Biggio. Biggio has had a double off the left field wall. He's hit a 3-run homer to the back of the Crawford boxes out there, and he's popped up the short. And that's low. 1 ball, no strikes. Craig Biggio, will he even be with the Astros next year? He is a free agent at the end of this season. And that is too low. Biggio, 3 hits in 13 career at-bats versus Alfonseca. But Biggio had a big year, and he's having a big day. That's a strike. 2-1 now. Biggio hit 24 homers, and he finally got involved in producing runs here in the postseason. He'd had only one other postseason RBI. That was against San Diego 6 years ago. In the hole, and Furcal has no play. So it's an infield hit for Biggio. Ausmus over to second, and now Beltran is coming up.
And Beltran has been the big guy for the Astros in this series. This ball is chopped wide of third. Chipper can't get it, and once he can't get it, you see Chipper's in tight at third. And once he cannot make the play, there's no way that Furcal can throw him out from deep left field.
Beltran has never had a hit against Alfonseca. The killer bees. Biggio, Beltran, Bagwell, Berkman, Backey. So now the crowd getting back into it. 2 men on, 2 men out. Ball 1. Beltran has lined out to right. He has doubled and scored a run, and he has walked in this game. Beltran has had 6 hits and 15 at-bats in the series, with 4 runs batted in and 6 scores. Right center field. This will stay in the yard. And that's the inning. J.D. Drew handles it. So 2 men left. Now we head into the late innings. The top of the order for Furcal, Drew, and Giles coming up. On to the 7th inning now. The 3-run homer by LaRoche tying this ball game for Atlanta. It is 5-5. And now a double switch made by Phil Garner, as you see Alfonseca, who got through that 6th inning with some difficulties. But Mike Gallo, the left-hander, has come in to pitch. He's out there talking with Brad Ausmus. But Craig Biggio, who's had a double and a 3-run homer, plus a single in the 6th inning, 3 for 4. He's been taken out of the game. So Lane is now in left field, hitting 9th. And Gallo, the pitcher, in the leadoff spot. So, and it's interesting, Joe, he only gains 1 spot in the order with this move.
Well, I'm not even going to try to figure that one out. You're in a tie ball game, and you're taking out one of your run producers, the guy that's having a great day for you today. I don't know.
Here's Furcal, and he takes a curveball.
There's no way I can understand it. So, you know, it's in a tie ball game.
If Biggio had been hitting 7 and the pitcher's spot was 2 batters later, at least you could say, well, you have a long time to go before the pitcher will have to bat again. But they only gained 1 spot in the order, as opposed to just putting Gallo in the 9th spot. 0-2 the count to Furcal, and he's down on strikes just like that. Gallo puts him away in a hurry.
Well, Gallo goes right after him with the high, hard one. Excellent fastball. This is a typical left-handed pitcher. His fastball tails away from the right-handed hitter.
Gallo, the only left-hander in the Houston bullpen, 27 years old, from Long Beach, California, and he throws that slider in the dirt, and Drew chased it. Drew is 0 for 2 with a walk in this game.
I don't know if there's something bothering Drew physically, because he does not have a lot of bat speed. I mean, I know that pitch fooled him, but even on some of the fastballs earlier, he did not have a lot of bat speed.
Follows over the fastball, and Drew takes it a little bit high. 1 ball, 1 strike. There's Dan Maselli, the veteran right-hander, up in the Houston bullpen. The Atlanta bullpen is also busy right now. Curveball too high, and it is 2-1. In the Atlanta bullpen, Rietsma, a right-hander, and Hampton, a left-hander, warming up. Hampton normally is starting. That curveball is in there for a strike. Right now, only Hampton is thrown. We saw Bobby Cox. We've seen him do this in the past, Joe, in these series where there were times where Maddox, Millwood, Smoltz, when they were all starting pitchers, would work in relief.
But the difference is,
curveball bounced foul.
That Hampton came out of the game with an injury in the second game of the series that he started. So I'm sure that the injury must feel much better now than it did on that particular day.
And maybe he's just doing his bullpen work. I know yesterday Phil Garner had Roy Oswalt, instead of doing his bullpen before the game, he did it during the game. And he would have used him in a spot where he needed 1 or 2 outs if he thought he needed him. And then when the spot came and went without using him, he just went ahead and did his bullpen to get ready for the start tomorrow if they need him tomorrow.
Well, that's the way they used to use starters. They would wait till late in the ball game, have them go throw in the bullpen, and they might come in for a hit or a 2 for you.
2-2 the count to J.D. Drew. That slider is in the dirt. So now it's 3-2. Marcus Giles on deck, a right-handed hitter. 5-5 is the score here in the 7th inning. The Braves, for the second time in this series, getting a come-from-behind hit from Adam LaRoche. He got one against Brad Lidge in Game 2 Thursday in Atlanta. Curveball for the strikeout. J.D. Drew is 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts today.
Well, they made up their mind they were not going to throw him a fastball, even though they threw him like 6 consecutive breaking balls. And when they got to 3-2, they threw him another breaking ball. They will not throw him a fastball. And you see he's way out in front. So they had their minds made up. He's going to hit a curveball or he's not going to hit. And that's a pretty good curveball anyway with 2 strikes, 3-2.
So with 2 down and nobody on, Bill Garner is going to make the change down. The right-handed batting Giles coming up. And in from the bullpen comes Misselli. Braves 5, Astros 5, top of the 7th. 2 down, nobody on. And how far would you go for a loved one? We'll check out I'd Do Anything, a new reality series where your sports stunt becomes their sports fantasy. I'd Do Anything on ESPN Tuesday at 10 Eastern. For more information, log on to ESPN.com.
John, why don't you go and win that show for me and give me a chance to play 1 round on the PGA Tour?
All right.
Okay.
If that's what you want.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. And that's the only way I could do it because I couldn't qualify or anything. So I'd like for you to get me 1 round.
Because it said, really loved one.
Oh, is that what it said?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I really like you a lot. Here's a fly ball to the center. Starting back, Beltrán. He comes in and then has to make a shoestring catch. So Misselli retires Giles. Now the big guys coming up. Bagwell, Berkman, and Kent. It's 5-5, last of the 7th. Atlanta 5 and the Astros 5, last of the 7th. Jeff Bagwell ready to come up. He's been to the playoffs in 4 different seasons before this one, but has never made it past the first round. And we talked to him about how disappointing that's been for him.
We've had some opportunities in the playoffs. I think 97 when we got in, we just kind of got in because nobody played real well in our division. 98, we had a great team. We got beat by San Diego and Kevin Brown when he pitched so well against us. 99, we're, 6 inches, the ball rolls away from Walt Weiss, away from winning that game. Just little things like that. So, I mean, that is frustrating. It really is. But I look at it as the fact is if we keep getting there, then eventually something good's got to happen.
Well, and Bagwell's got a chance to make something good happen right here himself as he leads off in the 7th inning. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. And Joe, so far for the Astros, a lot of good things were happening. And Bagwell knocked in a run. Biggio knocked in 3 with a home run. 2 of the guys who've been together so many years and have had so many frustrations in these postseason series. But after Clemens departed, 3-run homer, Adam LaRoche, the Braves rookie, and this game is tied up, and now we head to the late innings.
Well, Bagwell's without Biggio because Biggio's out of the ball game, but You couldn't have a better guy leading off for you in a tie ball game than Jeff Bagwell. Not only can he hit the ball out of the ballpark, not only can he get a base hit, but he's also very patient at the plate. And you need a base runner here to try to get one run home. I think it's up to you try to get ahead here and try to get yourself a chance to get the lids. That's what they're trying to do here.
Well, the Atlanta Braves want to get the ball to John Smoltz, but into the game now comes a regular member of their starting rotation, Mike Hampton, who pitched well in Game 2 in Atlanta on Thursday.
He gave up a home run to Bagwell. I'm sorry. He threw a sinker away, and Bagwell hit a home run to right field in Atlanta.
Well, the first home run ever hit by Bagwell in a postseason game. So now they're matched up again. And it is 2-0. Here's that home run we're talking about.
And it was a great pitch down and away. And Bagwell did not try to pull it. He just went the other way with it. But again, I mean, he's smart. He's 2-0. He will make sure he gets a good pitch to hit.
That's in there at the knees for a strike. So Hampton would be the Game 1 starter against either LA or St. Louis if the Braves can come back and win this series. 2-1 the count. And now 3-1. And he and Bagwell have battled many other times in the past. Bagwell has had 5 hits and 18 career at-bats against him. Berkman, the switch hitter, on deck. And Kent, another right-handed hitter, behind him. 3-1. Ooh. Good. That either a cutter or a slider. 3-2.
Well, what is your Bagwell? You're saying I got to make him get the ball up. That one did not stay up. Bagwell goes out of the zone a little bit. It looked like it was going to be a fastball right there.
3-2. In the dirt. So Bagwell leads off the inning with a walk.
And that's one of the things that he does so well. I mean, he will hit. He's the right guy for every situation. I mean, he knows when he's supposed to go up there and expand his zone. He knows when he's supposed to go up there and narrow his zone. That's, again, the smartness of him hitting third. I really believe that he is a great third-place hitter.
Now, Berkman has had a visit with the third base coach, Gene Lamont. In the Atlanta bullpen, the right-hander is Chris Reitsma. The left-hander is Tom Martin. So here is Berkman, who's always been a much better left-handed hitter than a right-handed hitter. Berkman, though, has a .353 lifetime average against Hampton. 6 hits, 17 at-bats. That's a strike.
Well, that was a high pitch. He let him get away with it. Wasn't much on it.
Berkman has lined out to second, struck out, and singled in this game. He is 1 for 3. Now batting right-handed for the first time in the game. A ball and a strike. Berkman, during the regular season, hit .272 right-handed with 4 home runs and 125 at-bats. So 1 home run every 31 at-bats. Left-handed, he hit .329, 26 homers in 419 at-bats. That's a foul out of play.
And what you see from Mike Hampton is a variety of fastballs. One is really sinks away, as that one was starting to. He throws one that sinks a little bit, but it's faster. And then he throws one that's like a cutter. So he uses his fastball. He's more the type of pitcher I was talking about that Leo Mazzoni preaches with. You work off the fastball.
Brandon Backey cheering him on from the dugout. 1-2. Check swing, strike 3.
Great fastball. That's the fastest pitch he's thrown. 91-mile-an-hour fastball on the inside corner.
Well, that one may just have been called a strike.
Well, it
checked his swing.
It looked like a strike. I mean, it looked like that was right there. I mean, watch the catcher. He doesn't move the target, so that tells you that that was over the plate inside corner. A nice call there. I like that. Raise that right leg a little bit, you know.
Fielded Culbreth with the call. Bobby Cox thought he got the call right. Now Jeff Kent. Kent has really seen a lot of Hampton over the years. He's had 68 career at-bats against him. A .250 average. including 3 home runs in those 68 previous at-bats. That's Bagwell at first. And Bagwell, even at this late stage of his career, if you don't keep a close eye on him, he just might steal a bag on you.
I don't think he would do it with Jeff Kent at the plate. I think he's going to give Jeff Kent a shot. But you're right, he can steal a bag, and he may try it with 2 outs. I think he's going to give Jeff Kent a shot at this.
Kent rolls one to third, could be 2. Jones to second, 1. Giles to first, 2. Double play. And Hampton gets them through another inning. On to the 8th inning. Chipper Jones, Johnny Estrada, Andrew Jones due up. It's 5-5.
ESPN's Major League Baseball Division Series, presented by Budweiser. Budweiser, grab a cold, fresh Budweiser. It's game time.
Minute Maid Park in Houston, and now each team's outstanding closer has started to warm up. This game is tied at 5. Jeff Bagwell who got the leadoff walk in the 7th inning, but that came to nothing as Berkman struck out and Kent hit a double play ball. And so the Astros, who once enjoyed a 5-2 lead, are in a 5-5 tie now. The Braves bullpen, by the way, has pitched 4 shutout innings in relief of Russ Ortiz, who lasted only 3. Chipper Jones has had 2 singles, and each time he's hit a single, it was leading off an inning and started a rally for Atlanta. And that slider from Miceli is in there for a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. Johnny Estrada is on deck, and then Andrew Jones due up third. Andrew having another big game. He is 3 for 3 in this one. 5-5 to score. And Miceli misses low. John Smoltz is up in the Atlanta bullpen behind the left field wall in a little tunnel out there. So he'll likely just come into this game in the last half of the 8th. Whether he has a lead or not is to be determined. And ball 3, 3-1 to Chipper Jones. In the Houston bullpen, Brad Lidge is now warming up as well.
Well, you better be very careful on this 3-1 pitch with Chipper Jones. He's going to be sitting dead red. He got it, but he hits it on the ground.
Jeff Bagwell takes it himself. That's a very dangerous hitter. Retired. 1 away. And let's go to Gary Miller.
John, with Hampton coming in last inning, we now know who's going to go in game 5 if we have one. Jarrett Wright was ready to pitch today. If he had to go, Hampton would have started tomorrow's game. So he'll go against Roy Oswalt. What we don't know is what time it'll be played. If the Dodgers stay alive, their game will be at 8 Eastern time. If not, and they're eliminated, and it's the only game, Atlanta's game at home against the Astros would be at 8 Eastern. Otherwise, it's at 4.
Okay, I'm writing this down.
4.
If. All right. So now we know that. We can make our plans accordingly. 1 ball and no strikes to Estrada. I'm glad we have Gary here. You and I, we never know. We're the last to know always. 1 ball, no strikes. Johnny Estrada has singled and scored a run, grounded out and struck out. And that's off the outside. Andrew Jones has been the big man in this series for Atlanta. He's on deck. He's had 9 hits in 15 at-bats. 5 runs batted in. 2 homers, 2 doubles. In fact, we're seeing 2 of the outstanding center fielders in the game today going head-to-head in this series with Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones. And both of them are hitting the ball well in this series on top of everything else. And that is too high, so Miceli walks Estrada on 4 pitches. I mean, this inning right here could be a key to this whole series, Joe, now, because the idea for Houston is to keep Smoltz from having a lead with which to work.
Correct.
And here comes Garner. He's got Lidge ready in the bullpen as Atlanta has sent in a pinch runner for Johnny Estrada. Nick Green has gone over to first base, and Lidge is going to be brought into this game now. Runner at first, 1 out, 8th inning. And the red-hot Andrew Jones coming up in a tie game. We'll be back. Braves 5, Astros 5, 1 on, 1 out here in the top of the 8th inning. And we want to remind you that 2 teams with very high expectations this year will be meeting tonight. Sunday Night Football. It'll be the Ravens from Baltimore and the Washington Redskins in Washington. Ray Lewis, Jamal Lewis, And the Ravens take on Clinton Portis and Joe Gibbs, Washington Redskins. Game also available in high definition on ESPN HD. Call your cable operator, DirecTV, or the Dish Network today about ESPN HD. Coverage begins with NFL Primetime, presented by Miller Lite at 7:30 Eastern. Here is Brad Lidge. And he comes on in a tight spot. Runner at first, and here's the red-hot Andrew Jones at the plate. And he throws him a slider, but that's more like a get-it-in-there type breaking ball for a strike. He struck out Andrew Jones 3 times in the 5 previous at-bats that Andrews had against him. Andrews had an RBI single, another single in the 4th inning, and a double in the 6th. A ball and a strike. Lidge got the save here yesterday, pitching a perfect 9th inning with 2 strikeouts. He threw only 12 pitches in that one. And of course, last Thursday, he went 2 2/3 innings in game 2 of the series. Gave up the tying run of the game on a single by Adam LaRoche in the 8th inning of that one. That slider, he might have gotten away with one there. A soaring fly ball into left and caught by Jason Lane.
Well, he did get away with one. That was a hanger. And Andrew Jones hit one on the railroad tracks yesterday. But this one was a hanging breaking ball. It might have been a little too much inside because he broke down a little bit to try to get to it.
Nick Green is the pinch runner at first base. So Andrew, and he looks a little frustrated. He knows that.
Yeah, he had a good pitch to hit there.
And that was the one to turn it completely around. Well, here's Adam LaRoche, who tied this game with a spectacular 3-run homer and a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, maybe a little down out of the zone. A swinging strike 1. LaRoche tied this game with the home run into the upper deck in right center. And he tied the game on Thursday with an 8th inning base hit against Brad Lidge. LaRoche is 3 for 3 now against Lidge. And it's 0-2. This is the home run he hit against Qualls in the 6th inning.
Baby Chuck.
That was then. That was the 6th. Now we're back here in the 8th inning. The crowd on its feet with 2 down and 2 strikes. LaRoche has hit a double play. He's walked and he hit that 3-run homer. Julio Franco has come out on deck. The pitcher due up next. And he's staying with the hard stuff. He's not thrown a real sharp slider yet, Joe.
Well, the good thing about that fastball, it was off the plate inside. There was nothing that LaRoche was going to be able to do with that pitch. 0-2, off the plate inside and moving in.
Five to 5, 8th inning. Struck him out, and that was the slider he's been looking for. So 1 walk, 1 left. Ensberg, Vizcaíno, Ausmus due up to the last of the 8th. Tied at 5. Atlanta 5, the Astros 5, last of the 8th inning. And even the out-of-town scoreboard operator is in a prayerful pose out there right now, Joe. And here is John Smoltz. Smoltz threw 3 innings in game 2 on Thursday and was overpowering. He threw 45 pitches, had 3 strikeouts, did not allow a hit. And he throws ball 1 to Morgan Ensberg. Eddie Perez catching. Ensberg is single, grounded to second, and grounded into a double play. Smoltz is the 5th pitcher for Atlanta. Off the outside, it's 2-0. Smoltz now has had 2 days off since the 3-inning performance on Thursday, and he continues to lobby. He thinks the Braves would be better off in the postseason with him as a starting pitcher. But they're pretty happy with him as a closer. He's been one of the best in the game. And that's a strike at 97 miles an hour. The bullpen, a day after they got shelled here, has 4 shutout innings, only 2 hits allowed. Yesterday, the bullpen allowed 8 runs and 10 hits. That's in right field and deep. Going back is Drew. Now he's in a little bit, and he makes the catch.
Anytime the ball goes up, straightaway right field or straightaway left field, you have to hold your breath if you're the opposing team. The ball carries well straightaway right and straightaway left. When his first hit, you see Drew going back. Now he comes in a couple of steps.
Now Vizcaino. And there's ball one from John Smoltz. Vizcaino has been safe on a force out and scored a run. He is singled and he is lined out to center. That base hit back in the third inning, the only hit he's had in the series in 14 at bats. 2-0. So Smoltz, not with that pinpoint control that we normally associate with him coming out of the bullpen.
No, he's missing high with everything. Might be overthrowing a little bit. A lot of adrenaline flowing in a game like this.
That one is hit well to left center field, going back to Andrew Jones, but he's there now, just beneath the 404 sign on number 2. So they've hit the ball hard twice, but both times for outs. October, 8 teams, 1 champion. The race to the World Series is on. Don't miss it. And we've already concluded the American League in the Division Series. Yankees came from behind and beat the Twins last night. And of course the Red Sox swept the Angels as Russ Springer is now up in the Houston bullpen.
He's got 6 teams left now.
That's up the middle and a base hit to center for Brad Ausmus. And now Jason Lane will come up. Jason Lane, who came in as part of a double switch with Gallo in the 7th inning when they replaced Biggio. But after Lane, then the pitcher's spot is due up. So they gained just the 1 spot in the batting order with that move. So Jason Lane, who's got some power, for a long time thought he was going to be a big power hitter in the big leagues, but this year at the big league level, only 4 home runs at 136 at bats.
Interesting situation here. I know it would really be taking a big chance to do it, but you might want to walk him and make him pinch hit and get Lidge out of the ball game. Yeah. I mean, it would be a real tough move to make, but you have John Smoltz on the mound.
Lane hit one of the Astros' 4 first-game homers. He hit it against Chris Rietzma in that one. He's got some power. Well, that would be real interesting. And plus, Smoltz knows that he could pitch around him. Off the end of the bat on that slider, J.D. Drew has to play it on a bounce. And over to third goes Ausmus. Drew really had no play on him with 2 down. Ausmus is running hard all the way.
Yeah, well, we get the same situation anyway.
And Lidge goes back into the dugout.
Well, you have to take him out. And there you see Lane just flipping that little slider down to left field. I mean, to right field, and it falls in front of J.D. Drew. I don't know why he was throwing to third base with 2 outs, the guy's running. You want to throw first to second base, keep a force out in order on the infield, but it works out okay. But you have to take Lidge out. You can't let him. You have a chance of going ahead and possibly winning the game. You have to take it.
But I mean, we are totally in the dark. We're totally befuddled with what's happening with Phil Garner, because we didn't understand when he made the double switch that he did when Gallo came in. If he'd left Biggio in and just brought Gallo in, when Lidge came in here, he could have made a double switch.
Yeah.
In this inning, and now you'd have somebody else able to hit here with Lidge still in the game.
Yeah, I don't understand it, but I said at the time I didn't understand it because, you know, Craig Biggio is one of your horses. He's one of your guys.
So now, but because they made that previous double switch where they did, Brad Lidge faced 2 hitters, and he's out of the game. Orlando Palmeiro. And it looked like Smoltz threw more of a sinker that time than that live fastball.
Well, 2 things you have to be aware of. He has to be careful because there is a runner at third base. He's going to have to be careful when he throws the splitter, you know, not to bounce it. Even the slider, not to bounce it and let it get away.
Shot. Through. Nobody's at first. Smoltz gets there.
Great.
Got him. The side is retired.
And a great play by Marcus Giles.
Marcus Giles out into shallow right field and then made a perfect throw to Smoltz, who was sprinting over there. I thought he was a little late coming off the mound. And there you see it. Just in time.
Look at the throw by Giles. Sidearm, underarm, perfectly timed.
Brad Lidge threw 7 pitches. Got through the 8th inning and then had to be lifted for a pinch hitter. And now here is Russ Springer into the game. And he faces Eddie Perez. There's a curveball in there for a called strike, and it's 0-1. Charles Thomas, a left-handed hitter, and then Rafael Forcal, a switch hitter, to follow Perez, who entered the game as part of a double switch when Smoltz came in the 8th inning.
Well, the only thing that works in your favor if you're the Astros is Lidge didn't throw but to a couple of hitters. And if you do not win the game, then you definitely have a fresh Lidge tomorrow if you have to play in Atlanta. So, you know, that works in their favor that way. Because even though you want to end it today if you're the Astros, I mean, you still have a foul to take, so to speak. I mean, if you lose this game, you still can win.
But I don't get.
Well, I don't get the Biggio move.
We didn't get the Biggio move, that double switch, and then we didn't get
the lack of a double switch when Lidge came in. So, you know, I don't know. I cannot answer that.
Chasing that slider, and that's a foul. Out of play. Quite a play by Marcus Giles to keep the Astros from going ahead.
Well, LaRoche goes after the ball, and it's too wide. You see, Smoltz thought it was a routine play for the first baseman to cover, but then he realizes it, and as Peter Pasquarelli always tells me, Smoltz is a great athlete, and he proves it right there by just changing. And there you see Biggio, who should have been hitting if he would have still been in the ball game.
Eddie Perez down on strikes. One away. But you know, I mean, as you say, Joe, they had another game tomorrow guaranteed, even if they don't win this one.
Right.
But I think they would prefer to have just gone ahead and won this one.
Well, again, you don't want to play the 5th game on the road. And no matter what it says, you brought all your bags to the park today. Both teams, you know, the Braves are going to go home no matter what. The Astros brought their bags in hopes that they don't have to go. You know what I mean? So that right there is a psychological disadvantage, having to fly back with the team, even though they're going to have to go home anyway.
But it would be Jarrett Wright tomorrow up against Roy Oswalt. But Oswalt working on 3 days of rest, and Jarrett Wright working on his normal rest. It would be his normal day, and they're not really sure what kind of game to expect from Oswalt
because of his rib injury. But again, look, I've played in a lot of playoffs. I've watched a lot of playoffs. We've done a lot of them. I haven't seen a lot of the moves that I've seen today, you know, ever before.
Curveball, strike 2 to Charles Thomas. But I mean, you bring Lidge in the 8th inning with a runner at first. It wasn't a particularly tight spot.
The curveball.
Yeah.
But remember, John, most managers do not manage by the book anymore. So this is the new age of a manager, a new thought process.
Now, one thing, the last batters of the last 2 batters of the 7th inning were Berkman and Kent. Now, those are not guys ordinarily that he would lift in a double switch.
No.
So,
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out why there was a necessity for a double switch. I know Biggio's not a great defensive left fielder, but you also didn't have the lead. It's a tie game.
And that's back in the
7th inning.
Top of the 7th. Charles Thomas down on strikes. So Springer, Lidge-like here in the 9th inning. He strikes out the first 2. Top of the 9th, 5-5. In the last half of the 9th, the Astros will send up their big guys against Smoltz. We'll have to play some hardball in the last of the 9th. Beltran, Bagwell, Berkman, all sluggers. all with great power, all capable of ending it with one swing of their bat.
And also you have John Smoltz out there. Those are the kind of matchups, you know, you dream about if you're a fan.
And the Braves are dreaming about it with a one-run lead for Cowell, who hit the home run to end Game 2, the one game the Braves have won so far in this series. So he's not a big guy, but we know he has power. He's got a lot of pop.
Well, I think the one thing you have to avoid is down and in. I mean, if you're trying to make sure he stays in the ballpark, so you see the target. Well, it's almost down, but it was in, but it wasn't quite down. But you want to avoid down and in.
Springer in the 8th inning yesterday gave up a 3-run homer. There's the pitch you're talking about, Joe.
It's in. It's just not down. He gets away with it. You don't want it down and in to a left-handed hitter like Cowell, because those are the balls that he can yank out of the ballpark.
Andrew Jones hit a 3-run homer against Springer in the 8th inning yesterday, although at the time Andrew came to the plate, the score was 8-2 Houston. There's something out in the field, out in deep left center field beneath that 404-foot marker, and the ball boy went out to retrieve it, get it off the field. Everybody's standing here at Minute Maid Park. Another sellout crowd.
I guess that's why they call them fans, short for fanatical, because they've had to go through a range of emotions today.
Yeah.
The enthusiasm for Roger Clemens, the worrisome of the 3-run homer.
1-1 the count. Just off the outside.
And now the fact that they've seen this before. In fact, the Houston fans have seen it 7 times where they've been in the division playoffs and had a chance to get to the next round and have not made it. So a long, big range of emotions for the fans here in Houston.
2-1. Mighty cut by Cowell and a foul. 2-2 now. J.D. Drew, a power hitter, on deck. The Astros with 3 power hitters coming up in the last of the ninth. Russ Springer trying to handle him like Brad Lidge. Look out, he hit him. And so instead of putting him away, now you've got a speedster on the base paths and a power hitter coming up.
Well, they were going inside again. And remember, when you have a smaller player, maybe not as strong as some of the big guys, the way they're going to hit a home run is on a ball inside. And, you know, preferably for Cowell to be down and in. They were going inside, and they hit him with a fastball inside.
So for Cowell, who can steal a base. Now at first base. And J.D. Drew, the hitter, who is 2 for 4 lifetime against Springer. For Cowell, who stole a bag back in the 3rd inning in this series, has stolen 2 bases. The last 2 years in the regular season, he stole 54 times and got thrown out only 8 times. J.D. Drew not hitting well in this series. 0 for 3 today. There goes for Cowell. Pitch taken. The throw down. Not nearly in time, and it's a steal for Cowell.
That's what you want. You don't want a guy to stand over there at first base until the hitter gets 2 strikes on him and then steal second base. Hey, he says, I'm going to do it. Let's do it right now. First pitch. He's gone. Excellent jump. No chance, really, for him to be thrown out there. I mean, this is not even close. Look at that. He starts quickly. And it's not about foot speed. It's about the first couple of steps, the quickness that he has in his first couple of steps. A lot of guys, it takes them 6 or 8 steps to get up to full speed. It takes him about 3, and that's where the quickness comes in.
So you've got the left-handed batting Drew at the plate, who is 0 for 3 in the game and 2 for 15 in the series. On deck is Marcus Giles, ordinarily a very dangerous hitter, but he is also a hitter who has done almost nothing in this series. Giles is 2 for 19, and he is a right-handed hitter.
Well, I have not seen either of these managers, intentionally walk a lot of hitters. So I'm sure they're going to try to just be very careful with J.D.
2-0, or rather 1-1. That first pitch, that breaking ball on which Cowell stole, was a strike. So now 1 ball, 1 strike. And Phil Garner with Russ Springer on the mound rather than Brad Lidge. But Lidge will be real fresh for tomorrow's game. which they don't want to have. 1-1. Inside, 2-1.
And if you're Atlanta, you're in a completely different situation. You know, you do not want to save anything for tomorrow. You just have to go get them today. And then tomorrow, we'll worry about tomorrow. If you are the Astros, you still have to worry about tomorrow a little bit because it's going to be on the road, first of all. And you have to be able to give yourself a chance to win a game on the road.
Curves him and misses.
Well, I think they should just go ahead and walk him now because, I mean, he shows them he's not going to go out of the strike zone. Curveball outside, but he showed them that I'm not going to go out of the strike zone, and I'm going to sit on a pitch that I can pull, I can do something with.
Curves him again, got the call this time.
Well,
3-2.
I think that was a good point. He got the call.
J.D. Drew hit 31 home runs during the season. He led the Braves with 31 homers. 3-2 the count for Powell. The possible go-ahead run at second. And a fastball, right center field, and the Braves have gone ahead. Beltran plays it on the bounce as Furcal comes in to score, and the mysteries just continue. To add up.
Well, they made up their mind last time at bat. He was going to hit a curveball. He struck out. They made up their mind this time he was going to hit a curveball. But when they went to 3-1, that's why I said I think you should go ahead and walk him because, you know, he's going to sit on a fastball and he's throwing one. Unbelievable. Fastball, high fastball. He rips it into right center field.
So now Marcus Giles will come up. I mean, it was like the umpire on that 3-1 curveball did the Braves a favor calling it a strike. Suddenly, Russ Springer was emboldened to go after J.D. Drew with 2 strikes. And he had an open base.
Open base.
And a right-handed hitter who's had 2 hits in 19 at-bats in the series coming up.
Well, you still, I mean, if you're right-handed with the winning run on second base to go ahead and run at second, you'd still rather pitch, you know, to the right-hander, I would think. But again, you know, this has been a strange game. But you have to give the Braves credit. They hit Furcal, and he stole second on the first pitch. I think that's what it is.
Now Drew is going. And Drew also steals. That is the 4th steal of this game by the Atlanta Braves.
And that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, once you get your foot on the throttle, you got to push it down. You know, 1 run may not be enough, even though you got John Smoltz out there. You still play the game. Let's try to add another run here. Good jump by J.D. Drew. Steal second base easily.
A ball and 2 strikes now to Giles. Now the man on deck, Chipper Jones, is a switch hitter, and he has worn Springer out. Giles only had 1 other at bat in his career against Springer and is 0 for 1. Giles chasing one there. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The Astros bullpen is busy. Springer is the 6th pitcher used today by Phil Garner. There's Chipper Jones on deck, and those are his rather gaudy numbers against Russ Springer. Dan Wheeler, a right-hander, is warming up in the Houston bullpen. There's Wheeler, number 35. Drew, the runner at second, 1-2. Struck him out.
1 hitter too late.
Beltran, Bagwell, Berkman against Smoltz, and the Astros are down. Game 4 of the National League Division Series, and now the Atlanta Braves, who were down 5-2 as late as the 6th inning, on the brink of extinction in this series. Now it is the Houston Astros who have only 3 outs of life left to them in this game, separating them between this game and heading on to Atlanta for a Game 5 in the Braves' home ballpark. Jared Wright will go against Roy Oswalt tomorrow if there is a game. Here is Beltran, and a big cut and a foul against Smoltz's 98-mile-an-hour fastball. Beltran is 1 for 3, a double, a run scored. He's also walked. He has never had a hit against Smoltz. Bagwell on deck, then Berkman. Swing, an appeal made, and McClelland says no. One ball, one strike.
That was an exploding fastball. It may not have been the fastest he's thrown today, but it had a second stage to it. And a good job by Beltran just to hold up.
6-5 Atlanta. On the outside, fastball strike 2, and Smoltz already looks sharper just in these first 3 pitches than maybe at any time during the 8th inning.
Well, Beltran's going to have, I mean, now he's got to look for, he's got a slider, he's got a splitter.
1-2. The splitter at 92 miles an hour, unhittable. One away.
Once the guy gets you 0-2 with his fastball, you haven't seen his other out pitches, you're in trouble. I mean, you really are. And with a guy like Smoltz, if he can get ahead of you with the fastball without you seeing the slider, without you seeing the splitter, I mean, you're really at his mercy. And you see there, the first splitter he shows him, he can't hold up back on it.
The Astros, 5 previous times in the postseason, were in a game where they could have eliminated their opponent, and they lost all 5 of them. Bagwell. Ooh.
The one thing I remember about John Smoltz, he says, the only thing they can do if he hits a home run is tie the game. I'm going to make sure. So he's coming after him with a fastball. He's going to get ahead.
Smoltz has a theory about these kind of at-bats. And a slider along the right field line. Drew on the run. He's going to play it on a bounce. Reaches back to barehound it. It took a funny hop, and Bagwell gets the single. But Smoltz is not afraid of a home run when it can only tie it.
Right.
He said, hey, I'm going after the guy. What I'm afraid of is a walk, because then the next guy can beat me. He's always trying to say the worst thing that could happen in that spot is they could tie me. Adam Everett into pinch run at first base for Bagwell as we again see the base hit. So there's Everett, the possible tying run. And Lance Berkman is coming up now. Berkman 1 for 4, and the count is 0-1. The last time the Astros had a game like this where they could have eliminated somebody in the postseason was 1981. This current group, guys like Biggio and Bagwell, more recently Berkman, this is the first time they've ever been in a game where they could have eliminated somebody. They have always been the eliminatees rather than the eliminators. But right now Atlanta is 2 outs away from the same old story as far as the Astros are concerned. Lance Berkman, by the way, 4 hits in 7 at-bats against Smoltz, but quickly he's behind here 0-2.
And he's thrown him 2 splitters. He's tried to avoid the fastball with Berkman, and that's because, again, Berkman, if he hits it out, he can beat him. Whereas Bagwell was in a different situation, so was Beltran.
Kent on deck. Off the outside. 1-2.
The only danger with pitching Berkman away is that he goes to left field so well, and there is the short porch in left field.
There's Kent on deck. Short porch. Berkman has averaged 1 homer every 16 at-bats this year, left-handed. The splitter in the dirt. 2-2. I don't think he's thrown him anything but splitters.
No, he's thrown him 4 straight splitters. Well, after he got ahead of him 0-2 with him swinging at him, I think you have to try another one. But now we're back to the same thing. Berkman has not seen his fastball yet.
2-2. Another splitter, and he just got a piece of it.
Then you can see the movement of that one. The bottom didn't fall out of that one like it did against Beltran, but with 2-2 count, he didn't want to take a risk of going to 3-2. I don't think he wants to go 3-2 because they may send the runner that puts a lot of pressure on the defense, etc.
The seats in this ballpark are not being used. Everybody's standing. That time the fastball at 97 miles an hour, and he fouled it back to the screen.
And you have to give Berkman credit there because that was a fastball in as well. But he got a piece of it. It was supposed to be away, but you can see it was in, and Berkman does get a piece of it.
The Braves bullpen, 5 1/3 shutout innings pitched in this game. And back to the splitter, but in the dirt.
And a great job of hitting here by Berkman to go from 0-2 to 3-2.
All right, now Garner's got a decision. Does he got a strikeout pitcher out there? Does Adam Everett take off on this pitch?
Well, I mean, I guess obviously that's the decision he's going to make. I wouldn't do it because you have Jeff Kent on deck, who is also capable of tying the ball game.
3-2. Everett runs. Through shortstop, left center, base hit. Everett streaking over to third, and Lamont will hold him there. The throw comes into Furcal. Furcal shaded toward the middle with Everett running, and the ball got hit right behind him and through.
Well, you got to give Garner credit there. He took the chance because you're looking at a strike him out, throw him out, and leaving Jeff Kent, your leading RBI man, at the plate. But that's good hitting again. That's excellent hitting by Berkman to take the count to 3-2. And then he knows that he's going to get the fastball, and he does something with it. That's a great at bat there by Lance Berkman. No balls, 2 strikes to get it to 3-2.
Jeff Kent now against Smoltz. He's had 51 career at bats against Smoltz. 11 hits, a .216 average. He has hit 2 home runs in his life, but right now a fly ball could get it done, a base hit could get it done, a wild pitch could get it done. As the Astros try and stay alive in this game, runners at first and third, 1 out. So now Smoltz, I mean, is he looking strikeout?
Well, look, he's going to try to get ahead in the count. I think he's going to, he's going to try to get Jeff to get the splitter, get him in the ground ball first. If he gets ahead in the count, then he will go for the strikeout.
And he gets ahead, a fastball at the knees on the outside. Now, Jeff Kent in this game is 1 for 4, and in this series, Kent has had only 3 hits in 16 at bats. He does have 2 RBIs. He got them yesterday. This could be 2. There's 1 for counter first. Double play. The ball game is over. And the Atlanta Braves are heading home for a Game 5. And John Smoltz, the longtime veteran, with, for him, a very unusual, exuberant display. The Braves rise from the dead, down 2 games to 1 and down 5-2 in this game. And they win it over the Houston Astros. And now a 5th game, a deciding game coming up in Atlanta. And Joe, a game today, an interesting game, an exciting game, but one that has a lot of questions that Phil Garner will have to answer now with the assembled media here. Some decisions that had a lot of people scratching their heads.
Well, first of all, that was a great pitch by Smoltz. Kent had a pitch to hit. This ball is up a little bit, but he hits it right to the spot that he couldn't hit it, to stay out of the double play. Watch where this pitch is. It's up a little bit, which is what you're looking for. See, that pitch is up. That's what you're looking for to get the ball in the air. But he hits it right to shortstop. And Furcal takes his time, measures it, and fires a strike to first base. And, I mean, Jeff Kent has been in that situation lots of times. He led the Astros in RBIs, and he's driven in over 100 runs a lot of times, so he knows how to hit in those situations. And I was a little surprised he didn't go the other way with Smoltz, but just a great job of pitching by Smoltz, and they got the job done. There were a lot of guys that did a lot of great things today, I think. Berkman, that last at bat going 0-2 and getting the base hit to put him in the scoring position. So,
and then
great
finally,
game.
In the 9th inning, Brad Lidge out of the game, entering in the 8th without a double switch. Craig Biggio, by the late innings, out of the game. He came in, he left the game when they did work a double switch. And so some weird things in this one, and it works out finally that the Braves have beaten the Astros, and it all comes down to 1 more ball game tomorrow in Atlanta. For Joe Morgan, Gary Miller, and our entire ESPN crew, I'm John Miller. Thanks for being with us. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Now from Houston, so long.